Welcome to SoundMindBeats podcast. We go live Tuesday, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, USA, every week. Please come and join us on TikTok. And in case you missed it, we're going to be uploading the full versions here on YouTube. Thank you for listening. Good morning, my friend.
Oh, how you doing?
Getting everything set up.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
Mobain.
Yes, sir. How are you, buddy?
Good.
Thank you.
Actually, took the time off from the rest of the day because I'm I should be working now, but didn't want to miss out the podcast.
Cool, man. You got a little
Cheers,
tape
mate.
machine back there, huh? I can
Come
see
again?
it. You got a tape machine back there.
Yeah, I do. Wait, yeah, I have actually two of them.
Super cool, man.
That one is actually for hi-fi listening, and this one is actually for recording and putting the kicks, the pedals, and all that shebang.
Holy crap, dude! You got like the dream studio, man.
The dream studio. You're talking, man. I'm still waiting for my big 6. They told me today that they haven't got it yet, and most probably it will be after Easter. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Little bit disappointed.
Yeah.
I wanted to check it out now, but anyways, next week is still better than nothing.
Absolutely. I know. I think we all feel the pain of waiting for new gear.
Dude, one time I ordered a microphone from Stam and it took 2 years.
Really? Are you serious?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard this before, but dude,
Like actually 2 years.
Jesus.
I know Reference had
Well, like a year and a half.
What's up, dudes?
What's up, buddy? Yeah, I know Reference. What you had? Like you waited on like I can't remember what it was, but something for like a long time, right?
Oh, Gearwise? Yeah, from Danger Fox.
Yeah.
There's a side rack that was supposed to take 6 to 8 weeks to manufacture. I still haven't gotten it. I ended up having to do a credit card dispute.
Wow.
With them. I was like, if it's something like some boutique, awesome piece of gear that's going to be a game changer, this is just a side rack, and it looks nice and it matches my desk. But yeah, I ended up like dunking on it and it was like,
And Danger Fox isn't even like boutique. They're just like a company.
yeah. I mean, they make great stuff. It's cool. They've got a couple like YouTube guys that make real records and stuff that kind of, put it out. A friend of mine has one of the desks, and that's where I saw it first. And I was like, this thing is great. It's sturdy. I like a more mastering style that's like, nice and flat.
Yeah.
So you don't have a lot of weird reflections to deal with. But yeah, their customer services, if I can say it, I know that Rob likes a family show, but their customer service is dog shit.
Yeah.
And they don't answer an email. And then I ended up meeting up with like about 5 or 6 other people that are also like, one guy's like, yeah, he put in a Better Business Bureau thing for Central Texas and Austin, kind of where they are. And then a bunch of us filed. They didn't even reply to that until it was like 4 times in. Like, dude, just give me a side rack. Like, I'll get some Raccess shit from Guitar Center. I just need to put gear in it.
At that point, you're better off trying to find one of those same racks used on Reverb or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I know somebody who just got the Danger Fox, like one of the Danger Fox desks, and he just got it used.
Yeah.
So
It made me so mad. I almost wanted to unload the desk that I had. But then I was like, then I'll just wait for another. It's like I'll cut my losses. But
yeah.
yeah, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. When you can't get that kind of stuff, and there's real no excuse for it. So that's my story.
Yeah,
It's good that you say that though, because that's like important for people to know. Like just in case you deal with companies like that, and then you have to dispute getting your refund. That's kind of, I don't know. I don't like that. That leaves a sour taste in my mouth.
Oh yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. And like somebody said something to me years ago talking about sales and customers, and he said basically you can put customers into 2 categories, and I think as mixers we can do this the same way. And it's like, if I'm a client, I'm either going to be a disciple or a terrorist. I'm either going to tell everybody how awesome you were or what an absolute piece of like hot dumpster trash that you were. Very rarely is there something that's in between. But yeah, you get somebody that's good, you're like, work with this dude, work with her, they're fantastic. Or like, oh, they don't show up on time, the tracks are always late, whatever. Like, you know, you're going to get that reputation one way or the other. And that, you know, for me now on the client side, I was like, God, I'll tell everybody, like, yeah, they're really pretty desks and they're made really well. Good luck getting it. You know.
Yeah.
You know, that's an important point because everyone asks me about like how do you get clients in this and that, right? And I'm at a point now where word of mouth does it. And so that's why it's so important to do right by, especially if you only have 2 clients, do right by them because it could turn into 4 just because of them or 6. And depending on what your reputation is with them, you know, and so they're definitely going to talk about you, and that's why it's important.
Yeah. Most of my clients have been word of mouth, like, and they still are. Like, sometimes someone will just find me, but most of the time it's like a referral from someone else, or like somebody sees that I did something with somebody that they know, and they're like, "Hey, do you think you could do something?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know." But also just like for ethical reasons in general, like just human reasons, like I think that's important.
I know, like Tom. So you do work for TV? And, do you also like produce music for clients or like what
Yeah.
what would you say your clientele consists of?
Well, let's start like for my background. Like I started with music, but I kind of shifted like towards the engineering side. I spent a couple of years in UK doing that and finishing the bachelor's, and I kind of fell in love with the science parts of this whole thing, like sound. After that, I started that PhD in sound for VR. It was kind of a passion for like let's find out if we can make something better. But it's quite hard. After 4 years, I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna lose my hair in 2 more years. So
It happens to us all, buddy.
Yeah, dude. Welcome, my friend. Welcome.
It's your rite of passage.
so
Everyone
I
goes
thought it's
like
gonna
engineering
be
evolved.
I thought it's gonna be easier, but it just keep getting harder and harder and harder. So lately, I'm doing client work. Yeah, it's actually my job, my daily job. Let's say like that. And I did a lot of post processing for movies, sound design, that kind of stuff. Not for games, not really. And alongside, I just also did some productions, mixing and mastering mainly. That was the main side. But as you said, like my clients were like kind of referred, like they by spoken word, they never like, not really never, but 80% of the time, somebody heard of me and just gave me a call. But nobody reached out like from the internet or from the website or whatever. They kind of test you. They don't trust you, even if you know your stuff, but you're new to them. So they're a bit cautious, and they kind of want to see if you did your job, if you work on time, respect your schedule and the deadlines, especially in the movie business. Oh my god, the worst thing is that fucking deadlines. They're awful. You just give you 3 days, finish all the dialogues. If you don't finish them and it's not on some standard loudness specs or whatever, they not accept it because it's not Netflix compatible or something. So you kind of lose your client if you don't make it properly. And I feel that in the music side, it's a bit more permissive. No, you just send your mix, your master. Okay, what do you think? Well, I think I would need more drums or something, but they are not so tough on this side. At least that was my experience till now. From now on, we will see.
Yeah.
But regarding with your with your subject, it happened to me as well. Like I did wrote a soundtrack, and I didn't get the credits, even though if I had a contract as well. But after it won the first prize in Europe and that kind of stuff, they just literally like forget me that I ever existed, and they also used my music in other projects.
is there anything you could do like legally to
If you have a bit of money and a good attorney, you can start and have a chat with them in the court, but it's gonna cost you. It definitely gonna cost you money. I can still prove it because I have the projects and the recording, actually, the raw files, some videos from my studio when I did record that soundtrack with the cello guy by Michael, and but I was like 20, I think, or 21. I was so young, and I didn't really have either the money, the knowledge, to know what to do exactly. And they kind of target this kind of, people that they just started or they are new and they are fresh because they don't know what is going on.
I think that's a very common story in our industry, unfortunately. It's the younger people that are fresh to the business that tend to get taken advantage of the most.
There's no law for like how can I use your track, for example. And there's no law in the US, for example, it's just the thing that fair use.
Just real quick. Dude, we're getting a bunch of static. Can everyone mute real quick? I'm not sure where that's coming from. I think it's Brandon. I think it's you. Yeah, it's you, Brandon.
No, I think I was ripping a piece of paper. I think that might have been it.
It's back again.
But the static is still there. It's still there. As soon as you unmute yourself, the static's still there.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. It's weird. Okay. My apologies, Tom. Continue.
Don't worry. Like, there's no law in the US. There's just a statement like fair use of the track. But what is fair use of the track? 4 bars, 2 bars. At least in this side of the Europe, like Romania, Transylvania, they kind of have a thing called 4 bars. But you can take that 4 bars and loop it, no? You can take 4 bars from the verse, 4 bars for the chorus, and it's almost the same. So I don't know what to say. I think that the laws are not really helping like a lot.
That, for example, will never happen in Germany, for example. We have GEMA. I think everyone on this earth knows about GEMA or the GEMA, or how to pronounce it, GEMA. And once you subscribe to them and you pay the fees being a member of GEMA, they are taking care that your music is copyrighted. And if someone uses this in any way, you get your royalties back and they will fight for you. And it's nothing. So I think it costs around 250 euros a year, no matter how much music you produce or you co-produce or whatever, you always get, your royalties back. But that's another thing. For example, I didn't knew that, but in Germany, for example, if you buy a song, like you talk to someone to songwrite or to sing for you, you can actually, in Romania, but also US, because I have like projects also in US, I can buy the rights for it. I can buy the copyright for the songwriting and the vocals as well. In German, you can't. Even if you want to buy them, you can't. You're not allowed to buy it. So if you're collaborating with someone in Germany and they're writing you a piece of song and they are telling you, I'm giving you the copyrights, that's not eligible. So he's lying to you, because GEMA will claim the copyright for that. You cannot. In Germany, it's a thing, it's a law that says you cannot buy a copyright of human intelligence. So if somebody wrote you a piece of song or sang on it, it's their right. They cannot mutate the right to someone else. Wow. They will always be the one credited for it.
Do any of you know of anything that we have in the US that's close to that?
I don't know. I'm looking that up now. Like the digital millennium copyright. There's something that was like recent. Let me look and see what date that got.
The DMC.
Yeah, DMCA. Yeah.
Yeah, DMCA.
Yeah. And I know that tried to address like earlier issues of just the copyright, where it was dealing with how many spins on terrestrial radio somebody was getting and that kind of stuff, and try to then incorporate issues with like early streaming. I'm not positive though if that covers issues more like protecting copyright based upon performance. I know they change it. You have Circle C for copyright. You've got a trademark, and then there's like Circle P, which is like when a lot of the guys that were getting sampled, like the old James Brown drummers, and then that Circle P thing came into play. But yeah, I don't know if the U.S. has anything that is really coherent. I guess that's a way of describing it. But yeah, that would cover use. Like, I can't do fair use and take your voice as well. I mean, there's fair use stuff out there. I mean, if you have copywritten material, you can fair use cover it, and then I mean, you can make a copyright violation. I think as long as there has to be one recording of a song that's been released, then that puts it under fair use. And someone like totally stop me if I'm like, you know, talking out of my third hole, but you know,
I think you're pretty.
I think it's pretty close to what it is, because I was looking for an artist even, you know, dealing with track we're working on now, and she has the clearances she needs at this point, but it was multiple like sort of contributors, like you know, Mike probably knows, like the write a word, get a third kind of deal in Nashville. But yeah, that was the issue that they were going through, looking at like, okay, like, well, how many contributors are on this, and do we have to get all the permissions because it's the actual first time it's been recorded, kind of a deal. But the difference was, after it's been recorded, then I can cover it. That's the sort of stuff that covers the, you know, somebody doing a you know, a vocal cover on YouTube, and then the artist can either say yay or nay on that, and you don't really have to go through all those other applications. Different when you're dealing with like the publishing end, or like getting permissions to record, or that kind of stuff. But yeah, dude, on our end, that's like almost like, so that's an entire career field of knowledge that you have to know in order to just like not get ripped off, you know.
I also think that like when you upload something, if you upload like a cover to like DistroKid, for example, there's like an option to say if it's a cover or not, and if it is a cover and you check that box, I think they give you a musical license. I don't remember if you have to pay. I'm sure you have to pay for it or whatever, but they like deal with that for you, and you can upload.
Yeah, and that's how they'll split whatever, you know. Then it goes back to the original rights holder in their distribution agreement, whatever the cuts are for that.
Yeah. Am I good with the static, by the way? Like, there's no more static?
It's still there.
Oh, shit. All right.
I think the first service that implement this copyright, paying the owners the royalties, was Mixcloud during the pandemic. And they also have it today. So you can publish on Mixcloud, like mixes, remixes, whatever. And if you mention the original track that you use and so on and so right, and you pay your fee to Mixcloud, Mixcloud is paying out of your fee the royalties to the songs that you're using. But that's the only platform that I know for sure that you can upload covers, remixes and stuff, and you're not cutting any copyright infringement. SoundCloud was in the past, but SoundCloud is a different story. If it doesn't boom, then you don't have any problems. But if booms, then everyone wants a piece of it, you know? So that's a totally different story.
Yeah, once the records start to move, that's when the thieves come out. And so, yeah, it brings a lot of people out of the woodworks. And I mean, technically, that's kind of what happened to us. Our records started doing numbers. And, you know, the person that I found that did this, it's very, very clear to me that they have a whole system set up. And they've been doing this to not just music, but they take content from people and claim that it's theirs. And there's two of them that I found that are in cahoots. It's this guy and another guy. And
don't say the names out loud, but do you have the names?
I have the names. I have the government names. I have their mom's name. I have the dad's name. I have the brother's name. I have the sister's name, the girlfriend's name. And I'm not lying. I really do.
Yeah, dude. Like sometimes just a couple dudes with rage issues is a better solution than like the legal route. Just kidding, but you know, not.
Like the thing is you won't see me step up and fight much, but when it comes to things I work hard for, you know, and put my blood, like to the death. That's my mentality. And so, yeah, they woke up the beast. And the truth of the matter is this, is that we need like world's dumbest criminals for these people because they do things that are just like, you caught, like you caught yourself. Like you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar and then you're claiming you just cleaned the inside of it. Like, no, you're taking the cookies, buddy. Like, you can't get away from it.
Did they upload to any DSPs or anything?
All of them. And it's like wreaking havoc on our numbers right now.
Well, that means they went through an aggregator, that they had to set that up and like, show ID and social security number in order for them to get paid.
Yeah, I caught
dummies.
Yeah, you put all your government names on all the paperwork because you uploaded everything. Like, dude, like it's so easy to find you. It literally just got to go on Spotify and read the credits. It's super, super easy.
This is why it's so. Oh, sorry again.
No, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, and maybe you already like said this in the beginning because I'm a little late, but like this is why it's really important for people that are like streaming live and even just mixing. Like, you don't think if you're mixing for a client and you're just doing this, like, if you're mixing specifically for somebody and you go live, like, it's not your song to be doing that. So you have to really get permission. But like, this just shows how easy it is for people to steal things. And then the artist has to go through and the producer has to go through a whole legal battle. And, so like, I never go live for that reason, because it's like, I enjoy going live and working, but it's like, you can't, because people are out there just waiting to take ideas. And, depending on if songs are registered, like, really create just so much havoc. It sucks. It really does. It's a messed up thing, but I'm not surprised at all that people are doing this. I feel terrible for you, but it's also like so many people on here. It just shows you, like, with social media, how sometimes I forget, at least, like, how exposed you are when you're doing these things, and it's like crazy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Michael, because when I started with Tom doing the lives, we also thought about doing some producing during the live shows. So when you work a new track or coming up with new ideas, or even mixing a track, because for a couple of weeks I had a track on my table to mix and I finished mixing it. But even when I finished the mix, I was considering, should I play the full track or should I play just a snippet of it, right? And everybody was like, don't play the full track, dude. Play just a cup of it. And that's what I'm also wondering sometimes. Is it the right way to show that? Because everybody can, copy the idea. And if you have the idea, that's actually the track, because that's all you need.
And even like lyrics, like, again, my world is mixing. So like, I'm very in this little bubble, and like whatever happens outside before and after me in terms of the process is like, for lack of a better term, like, I don't care, whatever. But I'm very aware that, like, if I happen to mix a record, like, forget about a label project. You can't do those on live, right? Like, anybody that's questioning that, maybe watching, like, don't do that. But it doesn't matter if it's a label, a signed artist, an upcoming artist, like, it doesn't matter. It should all be treated exactly the same, because it's like, what if I'm looping a verse and somebody's writing down word for word before it's even registered? Like, you know what I mean? Because I don't know how long somebody, like, if I get a song to mix from somebody who's up and coming, whatever. I don't know if they wrote the song a year ago, 6 weeks ago, 30 minutes ago. Like, I have no idea. So like, somebody can easily just be writing down lyrics, copying lyrics at the most basic form and taking those and then claiming it as theirs and registering, and like, can open up a whole bunch of issues that, and again, my perspective is for mixing. If I did that, I would get in trouble, because they'd be like, how the hell do these people get this? And it's like, oh, the guy went live was mixing it. And then it just, there's always people watching. And for somebody like Rob, who, you have a big following on here, right? And like, I've popped into your lives at, randomly like 5 a.m. if I get up, and and you're up already doing it. But there's like,
why are you awake?
Yeah, you're up. It's crazy. I thought I get up early, but you know what I mean? There's like a million people, not a million, but there's a lot of people watching, right? And like, all you need is one person to create havoc, and then it's a whole bunch of issues. And then at the bare minimum, for me as a mixer, like, I'm gonna get fired and never work again with that person, and probably word's gonna spread. So it's like, it's gotta really be careful. It's a great platform. Social media is great to be able to get stuff out there, but like, I've done like one or two things live before. One of them was like last year at some point, and I spoke with the artists and discussed it, and they were totally cool. And like, one other thing was like a mix competition thing where it was free stems, so it didn't matter. And this was a while ago, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, gotta be careful is kind of where I'm going because people are always waiting to do this.
Yeah, like I would actually argue that theft in our industry is probably far more prevalent these days than ever. And it's not the industry itself, it's the internet. And it's just random individuals on the internet. And I'm covered across the board and I could even break down how I copyright and monetize everything. But you could still bypass it and get around it. Like I say this a lot, right? If you own a grocery store, you're not going to stop every thief. So, we shouldn't let this stop us. But at the end of the day, Mike is spot on that. I go live on TikTok and I do almost everything live and show people pre-production, all of my process. And that is a massive risk on my end, and right now we're living it. And the truth of the matter is Dempsey, the artist, that I work with, he has a big fan base. And so when catalogs perform well, I believe Christian mentioned it earlier, but once the tracks start to gain traction and they do numbers and whatnot, thieves are all over it. And there's people out there, I hear it often. People are out there stealing music, posted it on DSPs and distributing it and making money and getting millions of plays and staying under the radar, flying under the radar. And so the thing that concerns me, right, is that I have all of our records monetized and fingerprinted. So when you go and try to use our audio, it will automatically attach it to what we have. This person chopped it up and didn't sample anything, didn't change any sounds. It just rearranged it, chopped it up and rearranged it, and it somehow didn't trigger our system. And this is my first time seeing this. This is the first time I've ever seen it, and I'm like, this is deeply concerning for me, And so, can I get it all back? Yes, and I'm already in the process. I actually believe he's already taken everything down, and so, that's the good news. But at the end of the day, it's what do we do now? How do we better protect ourselves? What sort of resources do we have that we could protect ourselves even when we just go live on TikTok? And so if that's even possible.
It's quite hard.
Is there, I think TuneCore has something like publishing rights or some publishing services, something like that. Would that help? I don't know. I just booked a service and then I got a contract from TuneCore that was 5 or 6 pages long with legal stuff, and I said, okay, I'm not ready to do this. I'm not there. So forget about it. Who wants to copy it? Copy it. But that sounds like something which goes in the area which reference mix mentioned, the DMCA. So they kind of attach that publishing rights services with the DMCA, but not sure. I didn't again, if you want to check it out, it's very long and tedious legal stuff. I think I need a lawyer for that. But since lawyers are very expensive, I said to myself, okay, I'm not making so much money from music, so whatever. For now, it's fine.
Let me say this real quick, because we got copyrights, which is one thing, right? And then we also have people that are just taking music and putting on DSPs. So the main thing about this, right, is they are unless the system and algorithm gets triggered, that copyright won't hit them. And then let's say this, right? So this just happened to me. Now I'm left with dealing with it, right? I reach out to my publishers and distributor. I'm like, what do I do? They're like, unfortunately, you have to go to every DSP and make a claim on them. Yeah, and I did what Brandon just did. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And this is a lot of songs. They took 20 of our songs. So I got to do each one by one, reach out to Spotify. I have to reach out to Apple, Deezer, Pandora. We do numbers pretty much everywhere. We're huge on SoundCloud. And I'm like, okay, now this is a bigger problem than I even imagined, because now if someone takes our music, the copyright's still in place, right? But I have to prove that it's ours, and I have to reach out to each DSP individually. I think. But wouldn't go ahead. Sorry.
Wouldn't be that the job of your distributor to do, because he's actually distributing your music? Wouldn't it be easier, to go through your distributor and say, I publish it then, and I have the date of publishing? Because this is concerning, because you should just by proving that you have the documents and all that, but also you can check the date when it was published. It's already proven case of that. You know what I mean?
That's a good question, and I'll tell you what my distributor told me is that they're not legally my lawyer to represent me in those regards. So it has to be the legal owner of the copyright, which is me. And then if I have a lawyer that represents me, then they could go and pursue it for me. And I have a lawyer that represents my company, but they're not gonna fight for like my copyrights and those type of things. And so that's something that I have to go and do on my own. And that's what kind of woke me up to it. I'm like, really? And then the DMCA claim, and so I went into that, and I'm like, no matter what, and no matter in any instant, unless you have like a manager or a lawyer that represents you, you got to do it. It falls on either them or you. So regardless, it would either be the lawyer or yourself. It would never end up being the publisher or the distributor.
Well,
They're not
the
Go ahead.
publisher wouldn't get involved at all. That's because I mean, again, I don't want to get too involved, and if you don't, from a legal perspective, if you don't want to talk that much about it, I get it too. But if you can, where the song's registered already under you guys, like
monetized, copywritten, like
so like wouldn't your publisher be able to get involved as well? Because technically, that's affecting them more than
Yeah, they're just not legally. I don't know how to put it because this gets into like a legal part of like who owns the actual copyright.
Who published
so,
it first? Who did it first? That's the question.
It's like I'm the one that's registering all the copyright, so it falls on me. Falls on my name.
You want to hear something kind of sort of off the wall, but maybe as funny anecdote, but also a potential avenue for your attorneys. Like, do you know if they got more than 1,000 plays on any DSP, or it was monetized for them at all?
It's hard to tell because we do so much numbers, and so it gets like conflated. You know what I
Sure.
mean? It could be our numbers or theirs. I'm guessing it's ours, but
So
that's a possibility. Yes.
if it was theirs, and they go through TuneCore, they go through any of the other aggregators, like you guys get a 1099, right? For whatever payouts you receive from any of these distributors.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're going to get a 1099. And the IRS, it becomes a felony for them outside of all the copyright stuff. They have to, even if you have illegal income, it is a tax code violation if you do not report your illegal income.
Right.
So if they get a 1099 off of a fraudulent, job, like they're in deeper shit, pardon the expression, than dealing with the copyright. Now they're dealing with, the Treasury Department.
Mm-hmm.
So like, good luck, nerds.
Yep.
It's like you chose wrong, man.
You really did. Yeah, you're playing with fire. And our catalog is worth some money. Like it could end up being a huge felony for them. Like
Sonny's right. That becomes federal for sure.
It is. It becomes federal.
Tax evasion, my friends.
Tax evasion. Yeah, you're playing games. You're playing with fire.
Just learn how to write a song. Release your own stuff.
They don't operate alone. That's the problem. They don't operate alone. And I don't want to give names, but I had a funny call one day, like music production company, and like not actually a guy, just the random guy. He was like, "Hey, would you mind doing some tracks for us, like just to finish the tracks?" What do you mean by finish the tracks? Well, it's not so complicated. We get all the music like kind of stolen from Greece, the good ones and not the famous ones, and we kind of check it for copyright issues. They kind of bypass the system by using YouTube and other platforms just to see if they get a copyright issue, but they rearranged maybe 4 or 5 chords. They changed just a bit, a tiny bit, so they can bypass the system, and they release it, and somebody actually buys that song, and that's actually how they make a living. So they are not the only one, and they are all around the world, I think.
For me, the proof is the date of publishing.
Yep. Yeah.
That's proof without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
So how can I prove it more than that? I published it first, so that's it.
So sorry about the static, but I just want to say real quick. Legally, at least in the US, like as soon as something is created, like as soon as you write something down or record it or whatever, like a copyright is created immediately just by the act of doing that. So you can prove copyright ownership just by like a digital timestamp of something. Like
Well,
that is like
hard
the
to do.
bare minimum. Yeah, it's hard. Like there's definitely like more like you should take more action to like protect yourself and like either register with the copyright office or like the data publishing or whatever. Like that stuff is like a better way to prove it. But legally, like if you ever had to bring something to court and like you just could show that you had created the thing like before that other person did, like even if it's like an MP3 file that existed at a certain date before that person ever put something out, like that's a copyright. If you write down lyrics in a song on like a piece of paper, that's like harder to prove because like how are you going to timestamp that really like digitally? But if you have a digital timestamp of a file or lyrics or something like that, like technically a copyright is created at that point.
Used to
I mean,
be
you
back
could
in the day, you would record it on a cassette, put the
and mail it
cassette,
to yourself.
mail it to yourself and keep
Yeah.
it sealed.
Yep.
You know, like the original lyrics,
But
chord
even that wasn't
progression.
really. I'm pretty sure that was like one of those things where they would talk about it, but it never really held up in court.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. You really got to prove it. You
yeah,
didn't reseal it, you know, that kind of stuff.
because even with the timestamp, like technically, I mean, I'm not super technical, but pretty sure you can just change the date and time on your computer and record something, and it creates it
yeah.
at that point. Like, there are ways around a million things to do all that. So, like, even though like you're absolutely right, Brandon, that's like the legal thing, but I can't imagine that like you would have to really put up a lot of money to fight that in court. And I just, I don't know. This is not my world. Maybe I'm completely wrong.
But even so, even if you manipulate the metadata, because you create, each file has a metadata attached to it, and even if you manipulate that, it's still at the distributor level. When you publish in your ISDN was created, the code with your publishing, that has a timestamp on his side. So that has nothing to do anymore with what you're saying, what the other one said. This is a third party that holds the information that's not pro SoundMindBeats or so. It doesn't want to help Rob or the other side. They are neutral. They just have their own database and say that's the moment it was created on our end.
Yeah, I think like Miley actually said it in the chat. But truthfully, how they stole our records was off of YouTube. And so they're just downloading them off of YouTube and then chopping them up in their own program and then re-uploading them to distributors. And so she actually mentioned to take what is it called? It's like the duet feature. I can't remember what it's called on YouTube. She just said it in here. What was it called?
Just to disable that ability.
Yeah, the remix. That's what it's called. The remix. Yeah, remix feature. And so that actually, I think that's a great suggestion. I'm going to do that from here on out because I believe that YouTube is probably 70 to 80% of the culprit of these issues because it's so easy to get on those third-party websites and whatnot. I mean, you could still do it even without the remix feature, but like it's so easy to take music off of YouTube, and so a lot of
Not
it's
just YouTube. Mm-hmm. Because so let's take, for example, the Omnibus from Audio Movers. I can route any audio source into my DAW. So it doesn't really matter. I can even get the best quality out of, I don't know, Tidal, with a high quality master stream and still get it in my DAW. So you're not restricted to YouTube.
Universal Audio, virtual tracks.
correct.
Route your computer virtual track and then
Into your DAW.
Into your DAW and
It's really
That's it.
easy.
yeah.
RME has the same thing. I'm on RME system and it's really easy. Like super easy. You don't need virtual cable, nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be that thing where it's like, oh man, I've got to like figure out a way to rip it from iTunes or from YouTube or whatever. Yeah. Now you can just, you're not even ripping it. You're digitally re-recording it, which creates a new file for them, which it's, so there's no metadata that's coming through, that stream. I mean, it's just taking the audio and it's going D to D. And that's rough. I wanted to say, Rob, and I have to bounce off here probably by 11. I got a session at noon.
Sure.
I'm sorry this happened to you, but I'm glad that you're one of the dudes with a pretty big platform. And it was like you posted that thing, and so Melissa, the artist I'm working with on her tune, she's all about like doing the live mix. And I was literally getting ready to start mixing, the rhythm section tracks yesterday. And I'm just kind of thumbing through, and I see your stuff all the time, and it popped up, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. I was like, we're going to figure out how to like do a little bit of protection. And it's a drag, man. These dudes, I mean, I don't know how we can, if there's a law against murder, right? People still get killed. Like, the law is not doing anything to actually prevent something. It's just like a mechanism to punish somebody if they break that law. It's like insurance. Like, doesn't mean you're not going to get in an accident. Doesn't mean you're not going to get sick. Hopefully it helps you on the back end, but certainly is not going to prevent anything. So I don't think it should stop us, but I think we can think of a way of maybe even for the streams, how we do it, trying to, maybe go in mono, something, somehow of like, you're not watermarking things, but, every now and then you're just putting in bleeps. Like, it's like the old school days of I'm going to give a client a demo, but I'm not going to, or like a rough mix. And I'll like, put 1K tone like in the front or the back, or chop it in half, something like that you can't get the entirety of the file to be completely playable until you pay up or something. I was just kind of like, trying to brainstorm some ideas of how we can still do this, because look at how many people like log on and they love watching it and they learn, and it only makes the community better. And like, some asshole has to come in and like, ruin date night,
Yeah, it's one bad apple spoiling the batch. Like,
yeah,
we all know this, that like, I mean, mostly my following and most people here are all great people, right? And then if we're going to speak positively, right, I took the TikTok right away, and posted this person, and so many people went after him. That's why the page is down, right? And so we have a community that will bind together, which I think is important. And I think it's also important that we open up dialogue and talk about it. So we bring more awareness that if there is any thieves out there listening to us, that you don't do it again, because we will come after you. And at the end of the day, like, it's going to take that. It's going to take systems put in place and maybe laws, but also us, like saying like, hell no, you're not touching my music. Like, I won't let you. And again, like, you're not going to see me get fired up and go crazy over certain things, but you touch my music, like, go. It's not going to be good for you. Like, I literally will buy a plane ticket. I will find you.
yeah. Like, I've got particular set of skills.
Exactly, that movie popped into my head. I will find you and I will get you.
We will get you. You're not getting away with it. That's what it is. It's like, it does. It takes a community of us to do this. And I think it's good too that these posts go viral, and like, it's to send a message, not just to hold someone accountable, but to send a message to the future thieves that, yeah, we're out here and we're watching and we will catch you. You're not going to get away with it, and that's important.
Especially if they're trying to get paid. I mean, again, I guess there is that protection, and part of it's a pain that you have to go through an aggregator to upload anything. But that being the case, they have to go through that. And then, again, like, maybe outside of the copyright things, like, well, you're going to get paid, and then the tax man cometh. So it's like, good luck, nerds.
Good luck. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, hey, look, I got everything monetized. I got my copyrights in order, so I could prove this. Like, if I have to take you to court, you're going to lose. Like, easy. This is an easy win for me. Like, no brainer. Flawless victory. So you really don't want that smoke. And that's the whole thing about it, is like, when you're stealing music, like, oh, like, this is like risking a lot on your end. It really is. And it's just not worth it. Like, I mean, I even said it in my post, like, do this for yourself, please. Learn to practice and get good at something. Learn to feel the momentum of you getting good at that. That's where real life is. That's where your true self exists. You'll feel alive. You won't have to look over your shoulder because you did something wrong. And at any moment that everything you built could come crashing down because it was built on a lie and on thievery, and it's just, this isn't good for your life. It's just not good to do, period.
This is actually something that's, in a way, with all the old, like, back in my day, analog, that type of thing. Like, this is probably a case where the digital side will be helpful. Again, like, it was so much harder dealing with copyright stuff back in the day, because, like, sometimes, like, somebody could totally rip off a tune and it just gets released on, some 7-inch single from some band in Iowa, and you never hear it. You never know that somebody stole a song until it like maybe got mainstream radio airplay, and then it was like, hey, wait a minute, that sounds like something else. But now that it has to go digitally, I mean, I guess there is a little bit of hope on that end. It's like it's a pain in the ass and sucks when somebody does it, but you're gonna get found out.
Yep.
And if you don't get found out legally, I mean, I'm sure that we all can think of other, artists, producers in a variety of different genres that they probably wouldn't take too kindly to these type of offenses. And,
Yeah.
you're going to find your name and address, dude.
Yeah, you don't know who you're
It's
messing
going
with.
to end up real bad for you. It's like someone woke up and they chose violence and
It's the truth. Yeah, when you mess around with people's livelihood and like, hey, I feed my family with this. This is what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Like that's why I get so passionate and upset about it. It's like this is literally what I do for a living. Not to mention the damn blood, sweat, and tears we put into making these records. There's no way I'm going to allow you to just take it from me, and I'm going to sit down and just smile about it. No possible way. It's just not in my nature to do that. It's just it's very, very sad that like things come to this, but the truth of the matter is I think that above all what this message needs to be is don't be afraid to put your music out. This does happen, right? It doesn't happen that often. If I were to really put things in perspective, the amount of music I've released versus how many times it's happened, like it's few and far between. So it is a risk for us all, but there's definitely systems put in place that help protect us, and there's ways we could fight back on this. And I think the more and more we talk about it, we could get better and more crafty at like getting around this stuff.
well said.
I do like, and what I'll talk about too. I don't know if do any of y'all know about fingerprinting? Have you ever heard of this term?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you go about doing that? Because I know like a lot of those aggregators, they strip metadata out, but
Yeah, and that does happen. Actually, I believe that just happened in this go around, right? But let me just kind of touch on fingerprinting. So a very unique thing happened to me. It was the end of last year. A company reached out to me and wanted to sign me. It's because my catalog performs decently. And this company is unique. They're one of 3 companies that I know of. And they do content ID. So that would probably be the more common term that you hear getting tossed around. And what this is it's a specific tracker that they put onto your records that is only tracked online. They recognize that online is wild, wild west right now, that anybody could take your music and pretty much get away with it. Like, we're talking about, worried about going live and sharing your music. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, you could copyright it, mix it, master it, all metadata, put it out, and they could still steal it and still, get away with it, right? And so fingerprinting is going to be the future of trying to combat this. And again, what it does is it basically embeds codes of metadata, and it tracks your records across the board. I was fortunate enough to get signed to a company, again, it's like the end of last year. And so I was able to fingerprint all my tracks. And so, like, for example, if you were to use one of my songs and just try to put it on TikTok, it's automatically going to track it across the board and attach it to my music. However, I just got surprised. I was thinking I'm like bulletproof, like, do it, take my music. But someone did get around it. So, there's obviously flaws in the system. But I will say that this is going to be the future. So educating your mind on content ID and fingerprinting your records. What I could say is the company's called Hawk, if anyone wants to look it up, or Identify.
I was looking up. Is also Emmy Sound? It looks like another one. Yeah, there's
Emmy Sound, I think, is another one, and there's 3 companies. I would say Identify, Hawk. They're one and the same. They're like the pioneers of this, and they've been doing it for about 15 years. So they have a very dialed-in system, and that would be something I'd urge everyone to like look into and getting your music put on there, especially if you own it. Like, that's the whole thing about it. It's like it's a whole other conversation if you're leasing your beats and you're doing stuff like that. Like, you're not the full owner of the record. So you gotta own it entirely, and or be the ambassador of the copyright. I just need to take down, do collab work, etc.
This fingerprinting is gonna be huge.
Yeah, you said Identigo?
Identify, and then Hawk. It's with 2 Ds.
Okay, gotcha. No, yeah, this is really good. I mean, this is not like, oh, what's a good vocal chain? But man, this is stuff that's like super important.
Oh, and I'm sorry, it's not 2 Ds. It's 2 Ys. My apologies. With 2 Ys. And then if you look up, let me look it up real quick too. And then I could probably put it in the chat here. So we got Hawk. They spell it funny.
Is it identify with 2ys.com?
Yep, that's it right there. Mm-hmm.
It has the fingerprint from Apple, and that's a logo.
Yeah, they do that. I know of being like the best company to do this. Like they're pretty much the company that started it and figured this system out.
Cool.
But and truthfully, like, and let me stretch this further because this gets very, very powerful. Copyrights and then royalty structures have split, and this isn't really talked about that often. But you got royalty structures from your publishing, right? Mm-hmm. Your PRO, from radio, so Sound Exchange, and then we have like pub admins that would collect like the rest of that's not performance, right? It'd be like the sync side and those type of things. And then you have the internet, which is now content. And so now we're walking into a whole different royalty structure. And what this entails is, I believe they call it like micro and macro royalties. Right. And so this is like content that is 1 minute and under. And this actually doesn't fall under DSPs and distributor royalties. You don't get paid for that because the whole track wasn't played. And so when you think about like music going viral on TikTok, for example, right? Most of the time you're just getting paid per video, not per play, because it didn't play the whole song. But if you're under the Content ID system and you have fingerprinting, like I am, and you got it monetized, they'll pay you for the streams. It's a little less because it's 1 minute and under. And so we now have to separate the royalty structures from what is being done on social media, consumed through content, and then all the rest of it, which would be, again, radio, performance, and all the other stuff that we're aware of. And so that's why it's really, really important to get involved in the Content ID, monetize your music, because that's a whole other set of payments and royalty structure that is not under the umbrella of like a PRO, Sound Exchange, your pub admins, so on and so forth.
You want to hear something interesting as I'm sort of looking at like the Identify stuff right now? Sure. And this is using this type of stuff as a word for creators. Here's like one of the lines of here's what's not eligible. Content released at any point in time for something that was like Creative Commons or free and open license. And then another one is recordings that contain audio made available for free from GarageBand, Logic, Fruity Loops, Ableton, and other DAWs. Like your ingrained sound pack loop thing or whatever. I mean, you'd probably have to, prove that it didn't. But if they can identify tracks, then it's like, oh yeah, like every free sample library, loop library, guitar riff library that comes in from Ableton and those packs. I'd say if it made for free, that might be the difference. If you buy an add-on pack that you pay for, then maybe that doesn't qualify. But yeah, I'm sure that because those all have to go into fair use as well. And I'm doing some commercial stuff, and Tommy, you doing like some stuff where you probably had people that want to release something for video, and you're using a background bed that's like royalty free, type of a deal, that kind of a thing. So yeah, it's just interesting. Any other no public domain stuff are eligible.
Yep.
Clips or sources that might be considered as fair use, karaoke recordings.
Yeah, you have to own it.
Speeches, podcasts, non-musical spoken word. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, if they have it, it's like Shazam on steroids or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about that is like, anybody that will like repost any of my stuff, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, I don't care where it is, anything across the board, it goes directly back to my account now and I get paid for it. So all the duets, everything that people use my music for, it's all attached to that now. And it's really, really important distinction of what you just pointed out too. Like you have to own it. You know, if you're using loops and whatnot, there's all kinds of stipulations. So you got to be careful if you're claiming that you own that. You might be getting yourself in some hot water when,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
you don't.
and some of those things are like, you know, even back, you know, I mean, there's a couple of us that used to have like the acid, right? And you'd get those CDs of all the royalty-free acid loops and stuff like that. And that would clearly identify on there that, yeah, this is royalty-free. You buy it. It's a one-time, like, lifetime use license. But yeah, now it's like even, you know, using systems like this, like maybe we get back into like creating original material, you know, that isn't a slice and dice of everything.
Yeah, it's going to have to like get to something of that because it just turned into the Wild Wild West. And that's where like copyrights and ownership got very conflated. And it's because there's so many loop makers out there and people using the same stuff. And that's where this whole conversation gets very squirrely. I'm always like very hesitant to speak about copyright because I'm like, I don't know how you create your music. And so it's kind of different for everyone based on how you create it. You know, you get, and the identify is a big one because I mean, not to mention like, I'm like, you know, Brandon and I, we have quite a few songs in our catalog together. Right. But I have to represent the identify part of it. I can't bring him in and split percentages on it. It's because the way that those systems work, it only goes down to one owner. You know, and so like if there's multiple different people on it, like they won't even let you register it.
Cool. Hey guys, I've got to pop off real quick. Gentlemen, thanks for the time as always. Mike and Brandon, real quick, if you can DM me, if you got any, I need a pedal steel player that can remote for something. If you got anything, send it my way, would you?
Randy got it.
All right.
I got you.
Yeah.
Super sweet. All right. You guys have a great one.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm gonna take off in a couple minutes too.
Yeah, cool. No problem. I was going to ask, like, if was there anything like Tom or even Christian, even Brandon, Mike, like that you guys may add to like protecting your music or anything you kind of think about that we have not covered?
This is the best way because I was telling Christian like 3 days ago. Well, I didn't know that this company exists, but I did told Christian that, man, it would be a great business idea if we could build a software that could make the difference between AI produced content, artwork, doesn't matter, music, picture, whatever, and human made audio, because it's gonna be like vinyls or something, you know, human produced things. You don't know now what is like AI or what is human. It's quite hard. So this fingerprinting like thing, it actually like is gonna be huge in the future. Huge.
I agree.
You can't tell the difference. Like if I made that beat, or if AI made that beat, or did I use the samples from, I don't know, free library, or even if you use it from a paid library, you can't own that. Let's say you have native instrument, because I reached out to native instruments, you use their library, whatever, you compose music. You can't own that music because it was used. You used actually their product. Even if you paid, even if your license is not like a subscription, you paid once, it's yours. It's not yours. It's yours, but it's not yours.
I have a different view on this one. I think there is only so much you can do to protect yourself or to protect your work. And there's an extent to what services there are available and can protect you. Because if somebody really wants to, you know, get into your house and get something out of it, and he's a professional, he will find a way in. And now I'm not talking about someone who just uses, you know, something to download off YouTube. I'm not talking about the simple things. I'm talking about the people who are moving on the dark net. You know, so there are people, if, you know, if someone really puts you as a target and wants to have something, they can get it. I always say like this multi-factor authentication, all this crazy passwords are for the honest people. If there is someone who really knows his stuff around computers and all that, they can get it. So there's only a certain extent that you can, protect yourself. You can protect yourself against musicians or people that, like me, I don't do coding and don't do hacking and all that stuff. But if you know someone who does that, there is no system that somebody, one of the greatest hackers in the US was asked, what's the perfect and most secure system in the world? He said the one that doesn't have any network attached to it, not even, like power, no power supply. So that answers all the questions,
Analog all the way down.
So
tapes,
man. That's what I'm saying. You can do like what you said, fingerprinting. You can do there are ways to protect yourself, but to a certain extent. If someone wants to get your music, they will get it one way or another. That's the hard reality. And like you said before, like laws are also there to be bent and to be broken, and they will protect you to a certain extent, but it may take years and years and stuff. So
yeah, the unfortunate reality is we're actually behind them. They're ahead of us. They're already smarting us. They're always, and so it's
exactly.
Yeah, they still, and now we need to figure out a system to beat that, but they're already ahead of that, creating another system, and so it's just we're playing catch up the whole time. Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean you should not protect yourself. So so that doesn't mean you don't lock up your bed, your house, or something like that. So still, you should do all the protection you think you're able to do, and protect yourself and fight for your music like you did now, Rob. I really, admire that. But that's it. That's all you can do at the end of the day.
What about you, Mike? You got anything that we didn't cover, you think?
Not that I'm aware of, no. Like I said, I'm very in my own world a lot of times with this stuff, so I'm not. I think you guys know a lot more, and I think you deal with it a lot more. So I have nothing important to add on my end. Very important. I learned a lot too from being in here listening.
What do you think, Brandon? You got anything?
I agree with Mobain in the sense that, if somebody really wants it, they'll figure out how to do it. I think it's just important to stay educated on copyright laws and what constitutes infringement, and just kind of your legal rights, and just knowing how to respond to situations like the one we're in right now, I think is important. Other than that, I don't really know that there's a whole lot you can do if somebody really wants to come after your stuff like this. Other than just take action after the fact, which kind of sucks. I wish there was more closure, but I don't know that there is right now.
To be honest, if you're not signed a big label with an army of lawyers, so I'm pretty sure if that would happen to someone who's on a bigger label, I don't want to give names in here, but on a bigger label, that would not happen. Or if it would happen, it would be really bad, effect for that person who did it. But otherwise, it's kind of hard on your own. Like you said, Rob, you had to go and take it down to talk with the DSPs. Come on, really?
So, one by one, dude. And I thought you were right. I reached out to my distributor, my publisher.
That's what I would do.
Right? Yeah, and I was like, okay, I'm done. They'll take care of it. And they got back to me. They're like, well, thank you for making us aware of this. This is who you need to contact. And they got this. I'm like, are you kidding me? You guys do it. This is what I hired you for. But yeah, I mean, that it's unfortunate. It's work. This person definitely threw a wrench in my schedule and blah 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 blah. Right, but on the bright side, I could get my music back. Right, I already know that, and so it shows that getting, like you said, don't do yourself a disservice and not educating yourself on copyrights and how to get all your stuff properly protected. So if this does happen to you, I now have the steps to go and get it back. Is it a headache? 100%. But I could get it back, and so nothing to worry about, and that's where it comes down to.
This type of actions really brings the worst in people, and usually it affects then afterwards the way you see your people or the community around, because it does impact you in a sort of a way, something like that, an experience like this. And usually the ones who are taking the blame, or not the blame, but the effects of such an action is usually the community around you, because you tend to be more careful. By being more careful, you will share less. So why am I punished getting less from you, Rob, since I wasn't the one who got your music, right? But that's the way it is, because we are all humans.
True. Very, very true. Yeah, I mean, I think that like this year, at least I have a hunch. And I'll just say this, like I do kind of have some like back end information. I did a meeting with the company Identify. So they reached out to me. I did a Zoom meeting with them. It was like an hour long. I picked their brain on not just how their company was built and their model, but also what is coming in the future. And so especially this year, they got a whole new system dialed in. They said they're getting better and better at this. And so that gives me somewhat of a relief that we do have now another system of protection, and mainly on the internet, because the truth of the matter is this happens way more on the internet than any other place, right? And so the internet is the wild, wild west. Like there's more protection outside of it. Like when we get into, the other type of things, sync and whatnot. So the internet is, I think, to me, the biggest problem, or the elephant in the room, if you will. And so, at least according to Identify, they have their fingerprinting system is it's now state of the art, and it's getting better and better and better at tracking these things. And so I just hope that that's true, and all we got to do now is just, like I said, just educate our mind, make sure we have a strong community so we can bind together for when this happens. Like if this happens to you, Christian, this happens to you, Tom, you guys post on TikTok, you let everyone know, and we're going to help you out as much as we can, to get your music back. And like that's just what it boils down to. Is I think all of us as musicians feel super passionate about this, because we could all relate that if our stuff gets stolen, we're all going to bind together, go after this person together. So yeah.
Correct. Mm-hmm. It's not just about the piece of music that's being stolen. It's the hours of hard work. So for the ones that you mentioned now, Rob, I know for a fact how much you worked on, and this doesn't include the time from Dempsey, right? So this is just your time. And then the nights I followed Brendan when he was mastering that. So it's not just, a piece of stuff that got stolen because it was worth €2 or €10. Is hours of work that, beyond the fact that you created something from scratch, from nothing, is the amount of work that went in there from so many people, and someone to get it, like taking ownership of that. That's incredible. That's where the real pain is, and that's why everyone feels with you, because everyone knows how much work and effort goes into this, and not just the hours you spend to it, but you're perhaps not going on a vacation because you're working on that. You're probably investing in your equipment to do better stuff. And when something like this happens, it's like they are stealing all that time from you that you invested. It's not the piece of the work, it's everything around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you're exactly right, and that's when I think I got most upset when I saw the person on social media like claiming like, this is my story, this is my life story, and I wrote this, and I'm like, I was there for the writing sessions. Don't you dare say that. I'm like, I got really, really pissed about it. And you're right, like they don't get to see the amount of hours we put in the back end. Me getting the artwork,
exactly,
filling
that's
out
the problem.
The metadata, all the paperwork, all the writing sessions we had, like this, I don't even know how long that project took us, but I dedicated like a month and a half of my life to it,
Told you.
Yeah.
And you would think, and I thought that before starting with music, that, it's a lot of job to create music, and it definitely is. But also the stuff that comes afterwards. So dealing with your distributor, talking with the DSPs, the legal contracts and the marketing, the money you spend in marketing to bring that stuff to life, and that's why I said, when somebody takes that piece of work, it doesn't take just, your bread or a piece of furniture. It takes part of your life with it, that's it.
It does, man. Yeah, that's exactly right, man. Like you feel like a piece of you just got stolen.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I get so emotional about it, because it's just like, man, we've worked so freaking hard on it, and then I look at my Spotify numbers and it jacked them all up, and so like all that, like you said, all the marketing we put into it for the past month is now getting all, thrown all over the place, and he's getting the credit for it, and it's very upsetting, very very upsetting.
Totally agree with that. And it's not just one person impacted. It's you, because you have the rights and you're in the middle of it. But like I said, there's Zimsy, there's Brendan, there's at least 2 or 3 more people in there involved in that and that. So you're not stealing from one person, you're stealing from everyone.
Yeah, 100%. I hope that multiple things come from this, but that we're sending a message to anybody else watching that might be thinking in the back of their head, like, it's okay to just take people's music and I'm going to get away with it. I just hope that they're seeing this, that no, there's actually people that are going to come after you if you do this. And like, that's kind of my whole premise of posting online and doing this, is like, I want people to know that, like, I'm not going to just sit down and take this. And I'm not the only one, that there's actually hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of us that will do this. So, yeah.
This should be for everybody the same. So it doesn't matter if you're a big producer or a small one, if you are on a big label or a medium or a small one, it's still your work, it's still your time, and it should, it shouldn't be taken away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
did we lose him? Did the audio go off?
I'm here.
There you go. Okay. All right. Yeah, that was weird.
No, I'm muting myself, not from TikTok. I'm muting myself from my hardware.
Got you. Yeah, and I know we got like a lot of questions in here, so I kind of want to let's go through some questions and see.
I got to dip, guys. I got to call in like 15 minutes. I get ready for.
All right, Mike. Appreciate you as always,
Talk to
bud.
you guys later.
Have a good one, man.
Thanks, Michael. Bye.
Okay.
Cheers, mate.
Let me go and grab a couple of questions. We won't go too much longer. I'm not sure how much time Tom and Christian have, so maybe we'll go like another 10 minutes, grab some questions, see if we can help answer them. Dempsey said Brandon stole our music.
Look at Brendan's face. Are you kidding me?
Okay, we got what was that MPC one? Okay. What is y'all thoughts on MPC stems?
As long as they're not from Splice.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky there.
Because
Like-
Splice says on there, it's written with font 11 or 12. I
No,
checked
9,
it.
5.
Or 9,
They
like very small
calculate.
fonts. They are royalty free, but they don't cover exclusive rights. So if you take a piece of sampling from Splice, you don't have the exclusive rights, which basically means if I'm registering my music, I can not hold the copyright for that particular sample from a legal standpoint of view.
And I'm trying to see, okay, well, you just answered that question. We had a question about Splice, so we'll pass that one up. Okay, we got that. Okay, how do I copyright my music? We did kind of go over that. I guess like that is such a complicated question, because I know Christian's in Germany. I believe Tom's in Romania. And then we have Brandon in Nashville, and I'm in Colorado or Tennessee. And we're both in the US, but let's, like, when we think about this, right? me and Brandon have two separate copyrights. Even though we're in the same country, our states are different laws. So we have different copyrights and different procedures and whatnot to go through, right? And I'm sure Tom has different, and so does Christian. And so what I would urge you to do is just look up the laws where you live, educate your mind on how to do that. And then there's also other ways to do it online, monetize yourself. A great way to copyright is to distribute your music. That's a good form of copyright. Like you get a strong date from that. Kristen mentioned publishing. If you are signed with a publisher, you have a pub admin, you register your music with that, you get a date. That is very useful in court. There's also metadata within your session. So when you bounce down your waveform, that actual waveform itself will have a date in it, and you could also prove the date from your session. That's a whole other way to copyright. And then we also discussed, for anybody out there, it's identify.com, identify with 2 Y's. You want to look that up, and that's a great way to go and start fingerprinting your tracks and covering yourself through anything that happens like within the internet.
Also, you could, if you really want, you can register your stuff with the U.S. Copyright Office. That's like a direct way to do it. If you have to pay for it, it's not much though, but like all those other things Rob just said also copyrights your song, like creates a copyright. But like if you want like to do it with the government, just register with the Copyright Office.
We have that in Romania as well as UCMR. So
yeah,
they never answer the phone, so it's really hard like to get in touch with them.
Like you have to deal you got to deal with the government nonsense.
But you can do it as well if you want.
Yeah.
Send a sheet, like the music sheets and everything. Like they have all the physical copy. They even ask a CD in 2021. So all that physical stuff, and you can send it in by post, and it takes like a month. They process it, and whatever they do, I don't know what they do. But you can send it in, so...
Like I said, in Germany, do you have the GEMA and they are taking care of it? And as far as I know, there is no producer out there or artist in Germany that's working with each other without both of them having that GEMA contract, because that's the entity that takes care of your copyright law, of your copyright infringement for your work. You need to pay for it, of course, a yearly fee, but at least it's worth it. And it doesn't happen, so not to my knowledge, so often that music is getting stolen. Because, law in Germany is law.
Yeah, it sounds like we need to get something like that put in place out here. I think the DMCA claims are close to that, but it sounds like yours is a little more detailed and better than our system. Look right now. Yeah, I mean... I feel relieved this morning waking up. Like I know we're getting our music back and whatnot, and this is what I hoped happened through our situation. I wish the person just owned up to it and just said, you know what, you're right. You caught me red-handed. I'll just take it all down. No problem. It's just it sucks that people like double down on their lies sometimes. And so I think that ultimately what happened in our situation is a good experience for me. And it's more awareness. It opens up these type of conversations. And then we could start to discuss, like, as Christian's saying, like, this is how we copyright here, right? Tom, has they do it a little differently, and just kind of understanding that we all have to just do our own research and education in terms of how to protect yourself based on where you live. And then just take those proper steps, before you release your music. And, let's just hope that no one figures out how to take your music, and if they do, at least you have the system put in place to fight back like I did, and you'll get your music back. Yeah, Jordan's saying cool view, because I found this person's personal page, and I went on every post that they ever made, and I was all, cool view. Do you know anything about stealing people's music? Over and over and over. I was like, this is a nice post. Do you know anything about stealing people's music?
Do you have some experience with it? Yeah. Well, this happy story that you can get your music back, and at least you have some, some guideline, or where do you need to knock on the door, and, at least that.
Yep.
could be worse. It could be something like you cannot do anything about it. That could be worse. So at least you can do something about it.
I think that this is probably the biggest part to this, because here's what I understand, right? Is that, I mean, at least you, Christian, Tom, Brandon, myself, like we're pretty experienced when it comes down to these type of things. And so there's a lot of people that are just starting out that are very, very concerned about this, right? And they don't have the necessary steps put in place that if this does happen to them, you know, they could just call this person or contact this person, and that will direct them into the right area to get this corrected. And that's like the one thing I recognize is most people are like, well, if this happens to me, I'm not like monetized. I don't have my stuff copywritten and whatnot. And so talking about this more for like the people that may not understand this fully is really, really important, because we should never be discouraged on releasing our music and putting it out there. You know, does this happen? For sure. This has happened to all of us, but we're still here making music. It didn't stop us. And so, you know, let's just keep talking about like, this is, you know, the strategy and how to protect yourself. And so if this does happen to anybody else out there, like at least you have someone to call, you have someone to contact, and then they could send you an encyclopedia of people that I need to contact like they did to me. and at least I could like get my music back, you know, and I mean, that is a huge like weight off my shoulders and a sense of relief that at least I know I could go and fight and get it back and win.
Yeah, like this is just kind of what happens when you're in the music business. It's unfortunately somewhat par for the course, but like if you know that and you know kind of the steps you need to take to reconcile it and figure it out, then you know at least you won't be as blindsided by it, you know. And then you'll know how to handle the situation. It sucks, but until like there's a way that we can prevent it, which I don't know if there is. It's kind of like any illegal thing, but yeah, I don't know. We just kind of have to deal with it.
You know, like, and I'll add to that real quick, Brandon, is that like it's inevitable. Like when you build a big following and you get a name, like snakes come out of the grass, so to speak. And so Jordan's saying something real important right now, because Jordan's a really, really great fan of ours. He's helped us with a lot of things to give you a bit of background. But what he's been doing for me is he will find fake accounts of us. He found 124 fake accounts claiming to be Dempsey, and then found 24 fake accounts claiming to be me, selling to people.
Dude, he typed in the chat earlier that he found fake knees on Instagram. I had no idea. I'm not even like a big account. I'm just like a little old me with like a couple thousand followers. Like what?
Yeah, it's what happens when you get just a smidgen of notoriety. You know, people try to jump on that coattail, yeah, and benefit off of it. And it's just something to be aware of. Like it almost comes for everyone, you know. And I know Dempsey's story. Oh, the amount of stuff he has dealt with throughout his career. He's been doing it for 9 years, and the people trying to impersonate him, like literally, like dressing like him, trying to sound like him, stealing his verses, like rapping, like lip syncing to his verses on camera, claiming to be him.
This is everywhere. Just, I don't know, guys from Romania on this chat, they know about this shit. Like, this is everywhere. Like, there's no place with no copies, you know, replicas, clones. That's how I say clones.
When it happened the first time that somebody stole my identity, like literally stole my identity and created profile with my picture, the first thing it went through my body was like, this is freaky to see your face and, you know, your identity with a different name doing something similar or the same or even totally different. And what bothers me is, why would you do that? Why? It has no, I don't know, it has no end for me. It has no meaningful end. So why would you steal my face?
Yeah, it's like trying to rationalize why anybody does anything illegal when it's like just blatantly stupid. You're like trying to understand why somebody would do something, but you can't. Like, there's no, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why would somebody blatantly steal the music that we just released? Like, I don't know, but they did it.
Well, we had this TV show in the U.S. I don't know if y'all have it, but it's called World's Dumbest Criminals, and I think I might make a page. We'll just put these people on blast. It's like, look at this person trying to impersonate someone. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Stupid. It's really, really weird. And like you said, it's freaky. It makes your skin crawl when you see. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's weird.
It's really freaky. It's weird. Yeah. But it happens.
It does. It's like I really believe this. Like since the internet, like it's far more prevalent now than it ever has been. Like it's happening way more because it's almost easier to impersonate someone. I mean, especially on the internet, you can just create whatever you want, you know. And then you got AI, and I've seen those. That stuff really starts to freak me out when I'm seeing these people like create this AI and like getting the mouth to move with words, and they're not saying it, but that they could use an AI system to use the voice of me, right, and get my
Yeah.
mouth to move, and it's like, oh, this is going to get really bad.
Have you? I don't know if you're following Dr. Mix on YouTube, like his content, and a couple of days ago he posted a new video regarding AI voice, and he created a track just by putting in the vocal line on keyboard, and the voice just sang the words which were put on those keys, and it felt like damn real. He could also change the tremolo and the vibrato and so it sounded like a real person, like it was for real. And you can also sing to that song even if you don't know how to sing. He will put that AI will put your voice with an over voice of that AI voice at the end, and you will sound good, like a real singer. That creeps me out.
Creeps me out too, dude. It really creeps me out.
So
I do believe that good musicians. I really had a chat with some guys. I had some 12th graders, some rock music, really heavy rock music yesterday recorded, and they were like, "Guys, do you want me to like just a bit like your vocal, just to arrange it a bit? Man, don't touch it. Leave it like that." And I mean, really, like, do you want me to leave it like that? Yeah, I want to be original. So they kind of know that there will be like two sides, the perfect guys and those imperfect guys, because perfect guys are everywhere. You go to sing with like auto-tune on live, whatever, you can bring your whole studio and do that setup. I just witnessed that. So but it's not bringing something special, in those imperfections, in those like small mistakes, you have something valuable. I just saw like a recording with Sting. He redid his concert, what he recorded in, it's called the 10 Summoner Stairs, something like that, I'm not sure, but he recorded that album entirely live with the engineer in a mansion or whatever, and it sounds freaking amazing. If they had a mistake, they started the whole take again, the whole band again. So everything was live, and it has something. I don't know. You can feel that something is there, something special. And there's gonna be those two sides, those special, rare, like wines, like people that are special, and people that are just random with the system. That's why, like, big studios, even in the UK, the last year that I did a bit of work at Abbey Road. I was kind of an assistant, and they started to shut down the like big sessions because they didn't have the budget, the money. They couldn't cover the expenses because nowadays, like, everybody has a sound card at home and at their disposal a mic, whatever. They kind of have it. So they had to figure out a business idea just to survive, and that's why you see now Abbey Roads mixing, online mixing on Abbey Roads. Like, you just send your tracks, they run it through the analog stuff, send it back with a standard template. If you want an engineer behind that gear, you pay extra. but they had to figure it out, like how we're gonna make money, because people are not gonna come into these big studios anymore. They just start to fall apart. And now what you have, like really talented, like awesome people in their homes doing one job. Somebody's great at mastering, somebody's great at production, and they start to like collaborate and move the project around. That because with this internet, the limitations are like I don't have to come to Nashville or USA like to work with you, you know. So it's a big wow, but in the same time, everybody has a voice now. And in my opinion, I don't want to be rude, but it shouldn't be like that. I wouldn't give a mic to everybody.
Someone has to
But
say it.
it happens. Like everybody has a mic now. And a voice.
You're now gonna get some hate.
Huh?
You're gonna get some hate right now.
Well, that's my opinion.
What I find really interesting about what you're saying is, you know, we all get kind of trapped in our bubble based on where we live, right? And so I'm well aware of that happening out here. I have a really good friend with a big studio, and like business is substantially low right now compared to what it used to be like 5 years ago, right? And so that just you know, is basically the same thing you're saying is happening out here. So the bigger studios are kind of suffering. The budgets aren't there anymore. And the direct result of that is because everyone is starting to build their own home studios. And so it's interesting to hear that it's not just happening here in the U.S., which I know for a fact. It's also happening.
UK suffered a lot. Like a good friend of mine, he moved his studio from London to the countryside. He's like, man, I can't make a living. Like it's not working. And I'm just in the middle of London to get like 2 vocals a day or whatever, like 3 vocals in a week. It's not worth anymore. So he went to the countryside and he said, okay, I'm just starting to do remote jobs and to get in projects remotely. So there are a couple of like iconic studios, because Air Studios, Abbey Road. There's a studio in South Wales that recorded Queens. They have amazing stuff, analog gears there, but sometimes you don't have the right guy, you know, to operate those things. So those things are like a kind of a museum, especially in South Wales. They even have those echo chambers and stuff like that. It's nice, you know, that feeling of you got that vibe, but you can do all that with a great interface now. I'm not saying like you get the same sound print. I'm not saying that, but you can get the work done in your home studio.
Mm-hmm.
And when you release the song, like nobody's gonna ask you or notice like, did you record it in the echo chamber in South Wales, or did you use Abbey Road's plugin from UAD or whatever? That's the reality now. That's why those big studios are getting like lower in budget.
I mean,
What's the USP of a big studio? Because nowadays, in order to build a big studio, you need to have bands, you know, tracking. Because that's the only reason why would you buy a 50,000 SSL console or an Eve, right? Because you want to track 5-6 people at once, right? And you want to track them analog and all that shebang. Otherwise, all that, the rest, it's enough. Like Rob, the big 6, even that's over-engineered, right? Because if you have an Apollo twin and you're singing, it's enough. You can track yourself. If you have good acoustics in your room, you can track yourself. And the rest of the instruments with VSTs, agreed. Like Tom said, you don't have that analog feel, you don't have that professional sounding instrument, but it gets the job done.
Yep. No, you're exactly right. Like, I mean, all the stuff I have in my studio, a lot of people ask me about it. It's just taste. It's like a specific sound I wanted to go for, but you don't need it. You don't at all. Like you need, you know, if you understand the basics of recording, you don't need much at all. Like you get like, I mean, if we really put things in perspective, like a lot of the interfaces we have today, were better than any of the equipment they had in the 60s.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Better than the noise floor is even better than those analog consoles back then. In the
100%. Man. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, like, yeah, I'm well aware of that. Like, I try to explain that to people. Like, I went for a specific sound. Like, I love like the analog fuzz. I love the sound I get out of the board. It's specific to me, right? But can I do it digitally? Of course, of course. You know, it just
Why the question is like why I love it? Because it's imperfect. That's why people love analog, because it's not perfect.
Mm.
It's not. I had the chance to mix on like Gus Dudgeon's console. That's how they call it, whatever. And also the Beatles was mixed on that console. Man, I truly hated to mix on that console, to be honest with you. Why? Because channel 1 wouldn't sound like channel 2 or channel 3 or channel 4. If I plugged in the bass in channel 4, I had to do a different tricking because the console was like kind of faulty, you know, the electronics. They were old, man.
Yep.
So it's people think that, man, it's awesome. No, it's not fun to work on a console like that. It's really hard, you know. But those things, those imperfections, if you're smart enough, you can, you know, kind of fake it in your digital environment. That's where the creativity like steps in. How do you fake that imperfect environment? So
It's easy. You put
It's
a
not
different
fun working
channel
with
strip
that.
plugin on each channel.
I don't know if you remember, Kristen, though. Remember what I told you about the Big Six? And I like they're all different, but like channel 1 and 2 sounds far different from 3 and 4.
Yeah,
So I
but
just
that's why
one and two.
that's
to
why you
record.
buy it. That's why you buy it. Because you want that sound to be imperfect. You don't want the same thing to sound the same across the board. And how I'm doing it right now, I'm putting a different channel strip for a different manufacturer on every channel. So if I have VUAD on one track, I will have waves on a second one and another one. Yeah, because it will change the sound artificially because they don't sound the same.
Yep.
You emulate an analog feel digitally, right? But it's still not the same as, you know, like the real deal. The real deal still remains the real deal. And of course, for the end users and for the people listening to your music, nobody will care that you summed it up on SSL or if you summed it up in fully digital. Nobody will care as long as the creativity, so the track is like commercial and it, you know, it has that hook in it. It doesn't matter. It matters for the ones who are producing it or mixing it or mastering it. That's the only one who care about these things. I don't want, trust me, I saw tracks made completely in Fruity Loops. Yes. In Fruity Loops, people. Completely. So from production to mixing and mastering, if you want to call it mastering, and they skyrocketed on YouTube.
do you know that small? It is a really like short documentary about $1 million business with a laptop. That's about Avicii and his laptop and MIDI keyboard for
Incredible. Yeah,
for 50 quid, like, or $50 MIDI controller. That's
all
it.
of our dreams, right? We're all like, really? Are you kidding me? So I did it on a laptop. Like, I spent all this money. And I'll say this too. This is what my wife says when because she's not technical. She doesn't do music. She's like, either it sounds good or it doesn't. I like it or I don't. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like that snare. The snare has too much crunch in it. You put too much 4K in it. Like, you know.
And you know what's the saddest part of it? And I think that happened to you, Rob, and also to you, Brandon. When you're like super enthusiastic of a track that you mastered or produced, and you're sending to one of your best friends and they listen on WhatsApp on the phone itself. that wow, man, I hate that. When you're sending the track and say, what do you think about it? And you see them playing on the mobile the track that you work like 4 hours to get that low end.
Yeah, you're not even hearing the low end. What are you doing?
To my low end. Especially tracks you're super stoked about your low end on. You're like, fuck, I got my kick and my bass doing the and then it's just like, yeah, cool, it sounds good, man. I'm like,
yeah. Where did you listen to it? On my phone. Are you kidding me?
On my laptop speakers, like, what?
Yeah, or that.
Yeah, that's the reality. And a lot of people like sometimes I do hate doing mixing jobs because people are sending me my mix back and they reference it with another track listened on the phone, and that's the reason why they want a like a revisit, because man, on my phone I can hear this track like this, mine is not like that, and they have a totally different genre that doesn't matter for them. You know, they have a reference, the reference track is EDM and they produce hip hop, and they are like, man, I want that sound. Man, you're not having that sound even if you kill yourself. Like, I
Right.
can't get your sound.
Recorded completely differently.
Yep.
One more thing, I don't know if you all know about it. A guy from my community told me, fun fact: if you listen to music on iPhone on your headphones, like wired for headphones, then it's fine. But if you're using Bluetooth, guess what? The iPhone applies compression on it.
It's not just the iPhone; it's the Android as well.
Okay, but
it's a-
he told me about the iPhone, so you get compression over Bluetooth.
Yeah, it's a technical, it's a very detailed technical stuff, but you get that on every phone. It doesn't matter if it's iPhone. You get that compression. But what can I
So
say now?
next time you send a song, if it's Bluetooth, then it gets another compression after you're limiting. After whatever you do, it gets another one.
Maybe that's why I stopped using mix bus compression. I just like, it's like I'm getting enough out of the phones.
Why put any more in the mastering? The phone is doing it for me.
I didn't put
Right.
any compression on this, but it's smushed. What the?
Yeah, it's for real. Like I don't know, man. Like I wouldn't be surprised. Like if I listen back to some mixes right now and I'm like, why does it sound squashed? I'm gonna say it's because of the Bluetooth. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I listen on Bluetooth, I'm like, that's why.
You know what's interesting about mixing? I think about this a lot, right? And because I'm thinking about what Tom said. This happens to me often. They'll reference something that is like nowhere near the sound of what we're doing here, and then we somewhat want that. And I think, like, I don't know how to describe this to clients, but when we're mixing, we got to understand the relationship of everything. And so it's like, I want more reverb over here, but that reverb can't get applied because there's something else in the background that's like taking over for that sound. So if I open up the reverb here, it's going to muddy up this whole word, you know? And that's kind of like when it comes down to the very technical aspects of mixing, is that when we're doing it, it's because of the track itself. It's the sources that we have. And like, can we get it close to a reference? Maybe, you know, but they have that sound because of all of their sounds and what it was recorded with and so on and so forth. And then we have this, and there's sweet spots that we have to stay within. And so to get close to a certain reference, especially if it's way outside the genre or just doesn't match the sound, you know, it's really not a good thing to do for your brain. I think if anything, when it comes to clients referencing, just try to do it with like levels. You know, is it, can we turn it up? You know, is it more powerful? Is it, you know what I mean? Like not necessarily trying to match a sound or recreate what another engineer did.
Yeah, I used to get massive imposter syndrome like a few years ago. Like it's one thing if somebody sends you like a couple references of like songs that like mixes that they like before you mix their song, and then like if somebody does that, like right, like now I'll like listen to a few things that I like about each mix and see like what I might be able to apply to their song, like that actually works. You know what I mean? Like, but or like for example, like if I have a couple of mixes come in or mix references come in before I mix a song and they're like all particularly dark or warm, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll like lean for like a warm sound on this record or whatever, or like bright or the opposite. You know what I mean? But then like a few years ago, sometimes I'd do a mix and then people would be like, I don't know, like play this one Taylor Swift song. It doesn't sound like that. I'm like, dude, like, but like I would get imposter syndrome. I'd be like, oh, my bad. Like, let me see if I can try to make it sound better. Like sound more like that. And it just will never sound like that. Cause one, it's not recorded like that. And two, like it's not recorded like that. So
Taylor Swift.
I'd be like, yeah, but like I'd also be like, at that point in my life, I was like, fuck, I must suck because I can't get this to sound like that. You know what I mean? But that's not the case. It's just like fucking impossible.
It starts all with the recording.
Yeah.
How do you want a VST to sound like a real guitar or a VST to sound like a real piano? It can't. So at the end of the day, so if you put a good, like, Keyscape is a really awesome VST for piano. So or Omnisphere, I think they're great VSTs, but they still lack a little bit of discrepancy between the thing and the real Prophet or the real Moog, right? It's not the, you know, also on the SSL, it is not the huge gap that you would expect, like 50% better. It's probably 5%, 10% that you can neglect. But at the end of the day, 10% on the guitar, 10% on the voice, 10% on the recording of your, I don't know, of your drums, 10% there, 10% there. And when you get the final mix, yes, that's 90% different sound because it sums up. It's not, you know, it's not but the VST is very similar. It's very similar, but if you add that with the other one, with the other one, with the other one, the end product is a different thing. It's not the same thing. You know what I'm saying? It's the sum of it.
Mm-hmm. It
not
really
the individual ones.
That was like really the point I was trying to make. It's like, because it's the whole cohesive sound. It's everything that's going on. You hit it on the head, Kristen. Literally just mixed a real guitar and a VST guitar. And like the harmonics and like the strings and the ring of the strings and all that, it doesn't exist in these VSTs. And like I'm like fighting to get that, you know. And I'm like, it just doesn't. You can't compare the two, and that's what it is. Nope. What is going on in the whole records? Like, we can't just say I want to sound like this. It's like, okay, well, how did they produce it, and how did you produce it? And then and now we're getting into the weeds of it.
Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah.
Home with a laptop.
But did it happen to you that you send out a mix to someone? They said, oh, I don't like the highs or I don't like something. And you just bounce the same mix again without changing anything in it. And you say, okay, I corrected that. What do you think? And they said, yeah, right.
Good.
Sounds good.
I've done many times.
And really, like, the way to get something to sound like something else is to record it in the same studio with the same gear and the same session musicians.
That's it.
Like,
period. There you go.
And hire the same mixer and recording engineer and like have the exact same personnel and equipment and studio on the record and like the same producer, and like then you'll probably get the same characteristic, like the same vibe, like, but it'll be its own record. But like, if you want something to sound like Taylor Swift, go hire Jack Antonoff and Serban. You know what I mean? Like,
my point.
Yeah.
And I also think about, you know, the people that are not sharing on their like channel strips or what they are using on their channel. That's different with you, Rob, and with you, Brent, as well. If someone asks you, what do you have there? You're like, I have this, I'm using this, and that. You're very open to it. But I don't understand the people who are, you know, so careful about sharing what they are putting on their vocal channel or stuff, because at the end of the day, each human ear is different. So even if I would have the same gear that you have, Rob, and the same channel strip with the same plugins from the same vendor in the same order, my sound will still be different than yours because we are subjective and we will put the values in a different way.
Yep. So true. Yeah, it's because, like, truthfully, the musician, you know, that comes from the talent of them, right? We could all play the key of C, but it depends on how that musician's hitting the key, right?
The velocity
separates us. And it's the same with engineers. You know, the engineer is going to make decisions based on what their ears and the feeling is telling them. And we're all on different levels and we all like different things. And that's why it would never be the same. This is why I'm open about sharing everything. So I understand that completely. It's like, I can give you every tool that I use. You know, you're still going to come up with your own sound.
Definitely.
It's the beauty of us. This is the whole beauty of being human, is that we all have this different interpretation and different perspective of things. And it shouldn't be the same. How boring would life be if we all did the same thing?
Yeah. So I agree, if you want to have some courses to pay for my time for me to show you what I'm doing, I agree with that. But not showing something just for the fact that I'm concerned about someone using my techniques. Trust me, you already know I'm a big fan of Luca Petrolesi, yeah, from the My Mix Lab guy. I love the creative mixing he's doing and all that. He's sharing all that on his courses. He has no secrets. So there you go. Does that make me as good as Luca if I have seen his technique? No, because I will do it in a different way, or I will put probably a different value in there that he did, or what he would do. And that's something you cannot steal. You cannot steal the experience from someone.
How many times have we learned a technique and tried to, like, we're like, oh, that's what I need, right? And then you go try to apply it to your mix and it doesn't work at all. So it just proves
exactly. That's the point. So
yeah. Yep.
you will always get better by doing stuff and by self-learning. Okay, this doesn't sound good, I should use that and that. And that's something you cannot read in a book or learn in a course. You'll get always the basics. You'll get some tips and tricks on how to use stuff. But for example, people would say if you put a CLA on a bass guitar, some people will say, why would you do that? Why not? You know, so it depends on your creative process. There's no right or wrong, because the never-ending question, what comes first, EQ or compression? I think I can see that question every 2 weeks popping somewhere. Is it
right.
EQ or compression? It's up to you what you want to do.
Yeah, pick one. Commit. Does it sound good? I always say that's the only question. Does it sound good?
Exactly. And at the end of the day, my point is, if it sounds good when you're bouncing it and people are streaming it, do you really care? Or do you really think that someone will take a moment and think, well, did Rob put that as a bass compression before or after he cued that? Nobody will care about it.
I'm a nerd, but that's it. Only we would think of that shit.
Exactly.
We might not think of that shit if we're just trying to enjoy the music.
I would say, like, now for me, like, what I would love to get into even more and more and more and to learn, that I realize that on the mixing skills you can like reach a certain level, that's fine, but for me, where it like really like relies, like I'll say the secret, the sauce is in the recording and production phase.
Yep.
Like if I take that, I don't know if you saw those pictures on Ibiza, like back in the 80s, they were like dressed like doctors and they had the tape measure and everybody's like, oh, they were like science men. No, when they would record like a violin, like a cello, for example, or a double bass, they would know that in this piece, for example, written in like G minor, the double bass would hit the lowest notes on that part and the wavelength should be that long. So in order to capture it in a certain way, or to capture it, I have to position my mic that far away. And these kind of things like make the real difference. And I always say, even if you record at home, try to go with a mobile setup in different acoustic spaces, because what we love in natural instruments, try to go, I don't know, in a church, try to go the next week if you have the possibility, I don't know, in another room, to get that fingerprint of the space, because that's the hardest to replicate in the digital world. For me, that's the hardest way to do in a mix, like to faithfully replicate different acoustic spaces for different instruments. If you go to the place, you do it naturally, and they kind of work better, and you have a different dimension in the mix. I kind of fell in love to this approach in UK. Before I was like, okay, let's do it home in the studio. Why not? They were the opposite. They were like, let's record it out there somewhere. Let's find a place. Don't record it at home. Let's find a place for the choir. Let's find a place for that vocal.
I think that's
wooden. That
If I
acoustic print is it's really really important
if I
because
would
that
have to start again with music from scratch, I would definitely try to find someone like you, Rob, or like Tom, or like Brandon, who can ramp me up in the music world, because YouTube is great for self-learning, but the learning curve is huge. And if you know what you're looking for, then it's great. But when you're starting from scratch, you don't know what you actually need. So to give you an example, in the beginning, I was trying to record my bass guitar, and I thought I'm gonna track it like through the DI box. So Tom said to me back then, "Hey, in UK we don't do it like that. You should record through the DI box and through your cabinet the same time. So put a mic in front of your cabinet and the DI box, and track it simultaneously through both mediums." And that was a huge difference. But you don't get that on YouTube, because why would I ask YouTube how to track a bass
well,
guitar?
that's basic kind of those things you get on YouTube, but there are things that you really don't get, like mic positions, arrays, like a lot of like a whole new world on this acoustics part that you don't get it. Like
It doesn't
nobody
exist. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
explains it to you, and it does make a huge difference. That's why, like Brandon said, like if you want that sound, go man to Air Studios, to have that hall, to have that room, whatever they've did over there, to have that environment. That's the proper route. To have that the same environment. If you don't have the same environment, you won't get the same sound. And even if you have the same environment, you have a different artist, so you won't get the same result.
and to be honest, behind a track like that, there's an army of people
Yeah.
working.
No, the
Yeah. Some of the
technician.
best in the world. Like really, really talented musicians, engineers, all of that for sure. And
Trust
Tom's
me,
right. Like,
most probably they don't even use MIDI. They'll probably track it directly in Pro Tools audio file,
yeah.
right? So
They usually track it, but those studios, at least in UK, they track for movies, mainly for movies. They do run the studio out for musicians during the night, so you get a good deal if you go there with your band. 500 quid for a night in Abbey Road, for example. That was the last price when I was there. So if you're good, if you're really good, you can track an album in a night if you know your shit with 500 quid. And they were bands like doing that, and I was kind of surprised. Man, what are you doing today? Tracking my album? When? Now, during the night. Because they didn't have the budget, to go in during the day. During the day, they were like big bands or movie production companies or whatever. So to not lose money, they rented the studio out during the night, and they still do that thing. So
Yeah, I mean, I think you have what is great advice that I feel like you just gave was trying to find the sweet or just a really good place in your room to record. I see this often with people is they just they pick one spot and commit to it. But if you were to do what Tom was saying, grab the mic, move it around. There might be a better spot.
whatever, like change your, I don't know, change your. Everybody's using in the boot, like that foam, that black foam or whatever. That boot, it's horrible. Like I said, man, take wood, like pieces of wood. I know it takes a longer time, but make everything like with wood, because the wood it has a different natural resonant type of thing when you use your vocals. Your vocals will sound different in a wooden boot than in a completely dead foam, whatever you have there. Okay, it's not that like budget friendly, because you have to buy the wood. You have to do it yourself, or like the walls at least. It's gonna cost you something, but it's not that the difference is huge in sound. It's huge. Same mic, same preamp, totally different sound in a wooden boot or in a foam
Mm,
foam boot.
so true. I
in
say
a
this a
dead
lot.
booth. That's how I call them, dead booth, because you don't have highs, mids. It's just like it's
Yeah,
like
it is.
it's okay for a voiceover if you want to like record your voice for in what or a script or an audiobook. You know, it's fine. It's totally fine. But if you want some timber out of that voice, if you want something special, like to bring that voice a bit alive, you don't put it in a dead boat. It won't.
By the way, Rob, are you going to do that course?
I am. Yeah, I'm working on a lot of that. Hopefully get it in place within a couple of months. But
Sessionwire, you will use Sessionwire, I think, for that, right?
yeah, something like that for sure. And then maybe even doing some like videos, people like a part 1, 2, 3, 4 that they could go home and study. But actually, I want to emphasize on everything we're talking about here because how important what Tom is saying. Like I have the same perspective. Like in what real life scenario are we speaking in a dead room? It's weird, right? And then people are putting those like balls over their microphones, right?
Yeah.
And it's like muffles or
I don't
something.
know who's the company who did those balls.
Chaotica, I believe,
Yeah.
right?
They
Yeah.
made a lot of money, man.
Dude, and like they did, and like that stuff,
Business.
I'm like, this is the first thing I think of when I see stuff like that. I'm like, you guys aren't in audio. It's the same in fitness. I'm really big into fitness, and I'll see like this fitness equipment being sold, and it's like, oh, you're not actually in our industry. Like you don't really do this, do you? Because a person that really does that would never create that. And when you're muffling your mic, you're putting this thing around it. It's like the microphone's an ear. And in what point would I go up to your eardrum and speak to you like this? It's to me like exactly what Tom is saying is like go into a more open space. Like if you're doing voiceovers and this is a whole different ball game. But like when we're recording music, there's better ways to get certain characteristics out of the vocals. And in my opinion, like more open spaces, while you're controlling the reflections, is typically a better pick. And wood in particular adds a lot of character to recordings.
You don't have like the budget for the wood, even a curtain like round would do,
Yes.
because what you can do with the curtain, you can kind of have a control how much you want to open that sound. So you can close the curtain a bit, you can open it. A very heavy, like thick curtain will do the trick, and sometimes on the ceiling a very light, like 3-4 millimeter, even that, like soft material, like a cloud, like just hanging.
Yep.
It does the job very, very well. But you have options if you look up on books all the time. I tell people like who are asking for music production courses or basics of engineering, whatever. Man, sometimes it don't waste enough. You don't waste your time on YouTube. I don't know. There are plenty of books with the basics explained well. Go through that book, learn the basics really good, and from then on, when you see something on YouTube, you have a foundation that man, that's gonna work or no, because you can filter the information. But if you can't filter the information, the right because there's no right or good here, everything is subjective, but at least a technical base, yeah. Is it working or no? You can filter that out. If you can filter that out, you need somebody to teach you that or teach yourself that. But
And
it's not rocket science.
in reality, like that's what we did with Dempsey is exactly what you said. We used the utility blankets, the wool, and then built like a PVC kind of frame for it so you could droop it over, put it behind him. It's a little taller than him, a little wider than him. It just managed the reflections instantly. And I got him out of like the deader spot in his room. It was like a night and day difference in how the vocals sounded from the first day I met him to today. And it's in that simple fix, it's like you could get such a better sound just off the equipment you have, like without even buying anything else, just by learning just basics of recording.
And don't stick like anything to the wall. That was an advice to me. If you don't stick it to the wall, that piece of fabric or material, it can bounce, can move, and that's important because it's gonna move the air behind, and the air is the best isolation you can get.
You're so right. That is really
If you
important.
have a bit of a gap between the wall and your panels or whatever, even that curtain, if you put it on the walls, like leave 5-10 inches or rather centimeters here in Europe of gap, and you will see the curtains like moving, and that's the whole point. That's your absorption, and not whatever it does. It does it better if you don't stick it to the wall.
A major part of a good track will be the tracking, and usually the tracking and the producing part, the heavy lifting, I think it's in sound design. No matter if it's you're talking about the acoustics or you're talking the sound of your synths or the sound design is the heavy lifting.
Yeah, when you speak about
No question.
classical recordings, more classical pop rockish recordings, mainly recording and producing, I would say. But I don't know. Do you guys know that? She is a producer, Sylvia Massey. I don't know if I'm. Man, she's so creative. She's great with her stuff. She doesn't share a lot on YouTube, but she has all these crazy ideas, running the guitar through an electricity bulb and all kind of stuff just to get a different sound from the amp. So it's like watching her, man, running my guitar through an electricity bulb. Why? Because of the different sound that nobody has.
This might be a good segue to that. Is that this is what I always do for myself is number one, practice is key to this. So you want to practice every day and like just carve out time for that, right? But also carve out time for experimentation, and that could be just moving your mic to a different spot, right? Or maybe trying a different setting in the preamp or whatever it may be, hooking a light bulb to a guitar, whatever it is, like get creative with stuff. And you'd be surprised with what you could come up with. Like, I think it's really important to do this for our brains because at least from where I sit, and anecdotal experience, like it's from like my experience, but I'll marry myself to techniques because I'm like, oh, this works, and I can recreate this over and over, and then I find myself in that technique forever, and it's like, why don't we just try something different? Maybe there is a little better way to do this, right? And that's why experimentation is important because you'll discover.
When you have a lot of work, Rob, as you said, it's easy to just recall that technique. Man, it's working. Yeah, get my job done. It's nice to have that time.
By the way, from Session Recall, do you know the plugin Session Recall?
Mm-hmm.
Totally recommended. So if you have outboard gear,
you mean for the analog?
Yeah, for the analog gear, it's amazing.
I used cards in UK. He was like screenshots and cards.
I do screenshots, so I'm old school.
I know. Okay.
Yeah, it's you can move around the knobs on it.
Yeah. It's on a Session Recall. You can actually get the device in it, move the knobs, the position you have on your device, and also the chain, the order of your hardware gear you can put in there. Again, it's not rocket science, but at least you don't have to make a screenshot or a photo of each device. You just put it in there and you try.
Me and Tom are laughing because our files of our if you open up a file that I send to an artist, like I'll do all kinds of Brandon knows. I got all kinds of different breakdowns. And then inside there I'll have pictures of the mixing board.
Man, that's gonna stay there, when you have a map with your screenshots and this. Even if the internet's gonna crash or whatever, the end of the world.
That's forever.
You still have your settings,
Yeah, that Session Recall though, that's a good thing to bring up because if you do have analog gear and you're not aware of it, it's a good thing to look it up. It could be
saves a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can also screenshot that if you want to have it forever, but at least it's easier to set it up. So.
Yeah, sometimes I go and look at my files and I'm like, I don't even know what this is because I did it 2 years ago and it's those pictures could get confusing. So yeah, that's a great suggestion. But
Great
I
plugin,
think it's probably time to about wrap this up. I know I got to get off here to do some paperwork. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Anything else we didn't cover?
I think it was covered everything.
It was a great session. It was nice.
Yeah.
I agree. Like I really appreciate you two.
It was
coming
a
on.
pleasure, guys.
Definitely,
To be honest.
and I appreciate you like sharing your story. Like again, going back to the beginning of the conversation, I think that these are like really important things to discuss, and then also getting into the weeds of the technical things. And to throw this out there too, both of you are always welcome. I do this every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Brandon's my guy; he's my right hand man, so he's usually always here. But of course,
If I'm around, I will do it with pleasure.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. No obligation, but like, yeah, if you got time, you're not working, whatever, you want to join, just add to the conversation. Like, I want to do this more and more to not just like, I love these conversations. I'm an audio nerd to the core, but
Tell me about it. You know me, so trust me, I'm
that's what's so
hardcore.
cool. Yeah, and that's what's so cool is I know all of us are, but there's many others out on TikTok that like, just as we're describing, right? Like you can't go on YouTube and find these like recording, techniques, right? It's really difficult to find this stuff. And so for us to come on here and talk about these type of things, like Tom has a plethora of experience, obviously, Christian, Brandon, both of you, all of us do. It's important for everybody watching, and I hope that like, at least if anything, people could take from this and improve their music,
Yeah, I think that's the greatest thing about TikTok. You get in touch with people much faster than you would do on traditional YouTube, Instagram ways, so to speak. Because I feel like since I'm on TikTok, I'm like on TikTok for 3 months now in total. I don't think starting with January, something like that.
I'm on the same page.
And I feel like I have a community around me. I feel like I met a lot of people that are doing the same thing, and I have learned much more than that. And the connections are even more than it was before. And that wouldn't be possible without this TikTok. Of course, you get a lot of stuff that you don't want to have, but you can filter it anytime. So
yeah, I completely agree. And I did see this before we leave. We're gonna do studio tours. Y'all
imagine if I would write you on Instagram and you never knew me, right? Even I would say, "Hey Rob, let's do like a session together." We're like, what does he want? What is he?
Right.
Creepy. He's a it's kind of creepy if you do it on Instagram suddenly without proper introduction. But on TikTok, I feel that it's natural coming in, right? Brennan is also talking on his mastering sessions with people, and it feels like very familiar. It's very easier to get in touch with him. And if someone writes you on TikTok while you're live, you don't feel like it's weird. But trust me, if that same person would write you on email or something, suddenly you will like,
who is this? Yeah, it's
who's
weird.
this?
Yeah,
it's weird.
Feels
Yeah.
a little more random, more like because also like email, like we've all gotten more spam and like not real shit from email, so it's just automatically more of a skeptical thing that exists just by default. And it exists on TikTok, but like shit is so much realer on TikTok than it is on like everywhere else. Maybe like Instagram, but probably still more than Instagram.
Totally agree with that. Yeah.
I totally
So
agree.
that's why I think TikTok and sharing in this type of sessions, they mean a lot to me, because I see. So for example, it never happened to me, music to be stolen. But now that you went through this, Rob, for me it was helpful because at least I know where to start looking. So I know for sure now that distribution will tell me goodbye. They would probably let me know just the list where I need to call.
Yep.
But at least I know you went through this, so I can relate to it. So then I will, go back and say, oh, Rob did this and this, so that's something I need to do, right? And you still have a community behind you. Otherwise, where do you get this type of information? It's not like it's free on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, it kind of comes down to the community at this point. And it's very obvious, for us to help each other. And that's the best thing about it. You're pointing, like, it's how I feel about TikTok too. This is crazy. I've always been local, and the reach is very small when you're just in your hometown. It's like, how many musicians are really there? Not to mention how many of them relate to you. You go on TikTok, like, none of us are even close to each other. And I mean, if we were all in the same room, it'd be hard to get us out of it. We're gonna be talking for hours and hours and hours, and that's the beautiful thing about it. So, I don't know if you heard though, but someone is asking for a studio tour. Do we mind doing a studio tour, everyone, before we leave, before we exit? I love this stuff too. We can talk about the gear real quick.
This with the studio tour is the only thing I like on YouTube, when you see other people's stuff and cribs and how they set it up. It doesn't matter if they have less or more. You're still like,
I want to see. Yep.
what does he have there? It's what type of compressor is that? Why is he using that?
100%. I love it.
Each time, it doesn't matter who does it. I can have all the gear in the world. I'm still, very curious to see what other people have and how they use it.
Looks like Tom's going first.
Yeah, I just got up. Man, my tablet is doing some crazy stuff here. But anyway, I'm just gonna flip the
Try to get
camera.
the bigger screen.
Let's I don't know what I did.
Tom's studio looks crazy.
Man, I get rid of a lot of analog stuff and synths. I just sold them, but I still have a couple of them, like in the storage room. I don't know how to flip the camera here.
You click on your image, and then when you click on your image, you have the camera, and you click on the camera, it will flip it.
Well,
Right, Dave? I feel the same way. Like, I want to zoom in too.
So when you click on your camera, it opens up,
but
and there you see.
did it see me? I don't know.
You did it. You flipped it. Hit it one more time.
Let's save.
There it goes.
Now you flip it, yeah.
This is the controller that I use just for the basic automation stuff. 2 TV screens actually. The walls behind, and the monitoring system. I do have Genelec, the one, and the Adam audio, and I do have some Yamaha MSPs and in the storage, but I don't have the space. I don't know if you can see. It's kind of a small room. It's mainly a mixing room, not a tracking room. And one piece of rack, it's mainly just preamps and RME system. And back here, that screen is actually from that small PC which I use as a DSP server. So when I don't have enough juice for mixing, I just run all the plugins, partially the plugins, not all the plugins, the acoustic audio plugins. I just run it from that small DSP server. And a booth that is in construction. Today I just hang some curtains, and I ordered the wood for the walls, but that would be all. And all my synths are in another room. Like, I do have 3 or 4 vintage synths, but I don't have the space to keep them here. So when I do need them and I have to work with them, I just bring them in and after just get them out because I don't have the room. But it's not really much going on. I do have this main controller for writing. I just love the feel of the piano. It's wooden piano. It's the A88 MK2 from Roland, if somebody's interested. And yeah, monitor controller. Sorry, Rob?
Microphones. We got a person asking what kind of microphones you have.
So it's a Neumann U87, AKG 414, Warma Audio, 2 mics, AKG 214, Neumann 102, and I don't know, there is a no-name mic, which sounds great, but it's a no-name mic.
As long as it sounds good, that's all that matters.
So, yeah, that would be the main setup. But I keep changing a lot of, like, all the time I keep changing things because I don't have the space. So I move them around, I get them out, get them in. So it's a constant change in the studio.
Yeah, that's how it works in the studio. Yeah. Can you do it, Christian? Is it possible? I know Christian has a killer setup. You may have to disconnect from that thing, huh? We can't hear you, unfortunately. Can you hear me?
Wait a second.
No problem.
Christian has kind of a similar setup to yours. Like if he will get the big six, it will be a bit similar to the setup.
I love about it too. Welcome to my crib studio vibe. That's what I'm talking about. This is my kind of show.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I moved to my headset. I hope my sound is fine. So I have here the Metallica guitar. It's an ESP Limited. I have a P bass guitar above. This is just for music, for hi-fi music. And now let me flip the camera. This is a native controller to write the music.
I'll turn the camera on.
Sorry, you don't see it. Okay, sorry.
I have to save it, yeah.
So this is the complete control, S49.
Oh, nice.
Here I have the Mini Moog, the 2021 edition,
Dude.
the original.
Oh, wow.
The original stuff. It's you know what? I'm gonna take this off. It deserves a little bit light. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is the real deal. This is the latest acquisition. I have here the Prophet 6.
Come on.
And here is the Sub 37. And on the left side, I have the Hydra. I have the OB6. And here is the grandmother from Moog. Here is the mother from Moog.
The grandson and the children.
Here is the TR8S, the Volca drum. I have an Ableton Push. I have the Roland Junos 106 and 60 for the how do you call it, for the boutique edition. Then I have pedals. I have the Roland Echo, whatever, the Galaxy Tape Echo 74 from UAD, which is also remotely controllable, and the Big Sky for the reverb. I have a tape machine running all through the tape. I have the focals as the top monitors. I have the Yamaha NS6015, which are the 10s, NS10s. And I have a sub there. I have the ODs as my main mixing headphones, and a Polo Twin, which is tied up to the Polo X6, which is over USB with my Focusrite and with my Evo SP8 for more ins and outs. I have a compressor for more audio. I have the Tegla VCA compressor and Pultec EQ, which is also remotely controllable. There are motorized buttons that you can modify them with the plugin. Then I have the SSL Fusion. I also have the plugins, the Warm Audio Compressor LA2A, the Drama 78, the VA 73 AQ, and preamp, through which is actually the SM7B going through. And I have the Chase Bliss pre-delay, all analog, which is, and every piece of the gear is tied up to a MIDI bus that controls every piece of the gear, including the pedals and the delays. I have a cabinet from Fender, pedals for the bass, for the DI, and a preamp for my headphones from Palma. And I have a patch bay in there that does the routing for me. And I think that's it.
He walked into Guitar Center and said, "One of everything."
Yeah, he's more of a guitarist than the keyboard player, as I told him, like with all that stuff, like than mixing or producing engineer.
Yeah. Well,
nice to have
a lot of stuff. Things. Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm blown away by all your keyboards. I didn't realize it. I'm like, holy crap.
Well,
yeah. By the way, if you're into the Metallica vibe, you should go pick up the Wow Thing plugin that Corniff just dropped. That's that.
I want to buy one from the one from Kirk Hammett, the Wow from him. Wow, he also has one.
They're
Yeah,
like
but
impossible to find, the hardware, but Corniff just came out with a plugin. Awesome.
I'm stop buying stuff because I'm broke. Like I'm done. I'm sold. I don't have any more stuff in me.
We all relate to that, dude. That's for sure.
Somebody asked me if I'm playing the keyboards. No, I'm not playing the keyboards. I'm using the MIDI to control everything. I'm just very little playing it. I started like a couple of years ago with the music, so I don't have that much of a background.
All right, I guess it's my turn, huh?
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Well, let me just change. Let me turn this around. How do I turn this around? Okay, so this is the control room, mix room.
Man, I love those plants. I love the
dude.
green stuff in the studio.
I know,
I love
me too,
it.
man. I love having the plants in here. That's mooch. That's just one of four keys. Got some guitars, trombone, some other brass. Got some saxophones back there. I was doing vocals yesterday, so I have this mic up. It's a advanced audio 251 clone, but I swapped tubes with some vintage Telefunkins.
Cool stuff.
And it sounds fucking awesome. I actually hated it before I swapped the tubes, but now it's so much better. I guess we'll go with keys. This is just a MIDI controller. It's not great, but it works. M audio.
There's my grandmother.
That's Avicii's MIDI keyboard controller. Actually, that's Avicii's.
I mean, it works. It's not weighted.
It does the job.
It does the job. Yeah. I love this thing.
Yeah.
The glide knob on it doesn't work right now, so I have to figure that out. I think it's a cable issue, but other than that, it works amazing. This is just like a DJ controller that my uncle gave me. It's not plugged in. It's just kind of looks sick, and it's just standing there. I don't use it. Yeah. Tambourine, because hell yeah. Plants, which are little Mario too. You know, some guitar strings for
crazy stuff.
Yeah, you gotta get the fingeries for the guitars because I don't want to be changing strings that often if I don't have to. NS10s, Apollo Twin, which is basically just a glorified satellite right now because I can't expand it into my interface, which is I guess I'll jump here. I'm going ADHD style with this Pro Tools Carbon. I got
nice.
The BAE 1073.
No, that's the best one. That's better than the Warm Audio. That's the craziest one. Yeah, I would like also that one, but that's crazy shit money.
I think these are better than the actual like Neve AMS stuff. Some of them at least. Like they're just like I don't know. They sound closer to like the vintage ones to me. I think. I've got this is. Some of this stuff I'm just borrowing. Like somebody lent me this Voodoo VR2 ribbon mic, and it's just sitting here. So if I need to like do a clap or do the tambourine or whatever, it's just there. You got a talk box, which is cool. This little Juno chorus pedal, which
I love that.
It's sick. I don't use it that often, but it's there. It works. All right, I guess we're going back to speakers. I got the iLouds, the MTMs, which are sick, and I recently somebody lent me this KRK sub, so now I've got low end for the first time in like a minute. But I used to have those Focal 65s. Those are sick. But yeah, this thing, I wish I could expand it into that thing, but I can't because this doesn't have ADAT out. It only has ADAT in, which I think
because it's the last one in the chain. You put it the last one in the chain.
Yeah, whatever. So it's basically just doing DSP for me right now. 2019 iMac, which is really starting to piss me off. Some treatment, some other stuff. Again, moosh. And then out here, I've got drums. This is a vintage Rogers kit. I got some books inside of it to like
that
weigh
looks
it down.
Amazing. Yeah.
Just some dampening on all the drums. This is a Yamaha steel shell stage custom, which I fucking love that snare. A custom hi-hat. This is like a vintage pasty ride from like the 60s. Super trashy, but sounds sick. Sort of lo-fi vibe. Got the Miro mics, the AC8s up here. 58s and 57s. This is the AC7, which I'm really liking on snare bottom. And then this is the first mic I ever bought, which is a Bluebird SL. And it works dope on a kick drum. And yeah, I get some clouds and some treatment in here. And yeah, and then that's the vibe.
That's awesome. I'm here in my home, but I'm also looking forward to move it all in a studio. I love how you have the foam and all that acoustic panels. I love that. I don't have any acoustic treatment.
Yeah, I built all the stuff in here except for like these. These I bought like a while ago, and I realized that they were way too expensive for what I am actually getting, but I have them. But these I built, and I have 8-inch bass traps that I did over there, which are nice. Yeah, that's it.
Not bad. I shouldn't have took you out. I'm like over here getting ahead of myself.
No, you're good. I'm done.
Okay.
No, that's it. Yeah.
We'll get back. Last but not least, flip my camera around. I know probably most of you see my setup because I can't stop posting about it and talking about it. But
love that rack. Love that rack on the left side.
All right, we'll go through this real quick. So we got this is a 1963 Gretsch guitar, Stone original paint job, and actually original strings in it. It was owned by my grandpa and passed down to me. This is why it's in the case like a family heirloom.
How much did you pay for that case? I think I saw it on Toma for 300 euros or so, because I also would like one of glass for my guitars.
I can't remember, but it definitely wasn't that much. I want to say it was like $50 to $70, if I remember.
Oh, that would be great if I can find something like that.
It's not glass, so it's plastic.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. And then we had that made and put in there. But my grandpa owned this, so that's why I have it up there. And it's definitely worth money, but it's more like family heirloom to me. It's very sentimental.
Nice.
So yeah, I have my Fender guitar, 6-string steel, and then this is just basically like my mobile setup when I travel. I have a bunch of percussion stuff, my Fender Deluxe amp, HS8s, which I don't use anymore. I did make those diffusers. That's the crappy foam we keep talking about. We got the S49 from Native Instruments, the complete control.
Yeah, you clone it. You clone it from me.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Native Instruments, I'm huge in it. And what I love about Native Instruments is that it puts all of your leads into one folder. You could take all of your sounds and put them into one, and I could just siphon through them through this keyboard. And so it's really fast and efficient for me. I do have a machine studio. I just don't use it much anymore. I'm more of a keyboard type of guy. Got the Atom A7Xs. Love it. Especially love the ribbon tweeters. I'm sponsored by Cali. However, these things replace my HS8s. These are killer speakers. They're really, really good. So these are the IN8s from Cali. MM6s from Cali, my Avatone mix cubes, which I love a lot. That's my meter. Of course, the SSL.
I also have that one. Is the one from TC Electronic?
That's correct.
That's the one. Yeah, I also have that one. Yeah,
it's awesome. Great. It's a great meter. So we got the Big Six. This company reached out to me. It's kind of like the Touch Me thing. You probably have seen this online. They just sent it to me for free to kind of test it out. I don't think I'll ever use it again, but it's kind of weird. Like you can hook it up to like anything, fruit, whatever it is, and then like play sounds from it. So it is what it is. And then what do we got over here? I got an Apollo Twin X as well. I mean, who doesn't have one of these? It's like,
it's like standard.
It is kind of a standard. And then this is kind of
the good stuff.
This is an Apollo Duo. So that's the very first rack mount from Apollo. I don't know when it came out. I want to say I bought it like 18 years ago or something crazy like that. Then we have a Clark Technic LA2A with a Blackline Opto mod. Have an 1176 from Clark Technic. Have an ISA2 from Focusrite. This is a stereo preamp. And then we have a Clark Technic Pultec down there, clone. Mm-hmm. And my Warm 47 large condenser tube mic. Yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful microphone. It is polar pattern with 9 different polar patterns, cardioid to figure 8 to 360. And it could go in between, which I really like. That's a really cool feature on it. I have my Ibanez. I'm a big Ibanez fan. But 6-string electric. Yeah, and then my Sound Gear bass. I have a Neumann 102, just like Tom. I don't remember if I mentioned my Beta 58. And then just back here, that's actually when I was in a rock band. So I had to put that up there. I did this like, I can't even remember. I feel like it's 15, 18 years ago, something like that. It was my very first production company. And then just built this diffuser, just cool little setting for, when you come and record with me. And then I'll show I never show this off. I never record in it because I fell victim to padding the walls and doing all that stuff, in the beginning of my career, realizing it doesn't work that well. So it's basically just a storage room now. I got a bunch of goals on there. Just throw stuff in there. I never use it, but it's just completely foamed out. And so if anybody wants to come over here and do their Mickey Mouse impersonations and do some voiceovers, like, I got you. But we're not going to be recording vocals. That's pretty much it.
Oh, cool. I forgot to show it on the camera because I don't play. That's why I have some percussion stuff, like.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Bongos. Yeah. I only played them once when I tried them out, and I was like impressed by the sound. I thought I'm going to do my own percussion. But then I saw some videos how hard it is to play them, and I said, okay, I'm not going to play them. I'm just going to sample them.
Yeah,
so
that's
just for sampling.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those percussions are really important. Has Tom got something else here?
Sorry?
Something else? Oh, no. Okay.
It was just me. I still have to mount the monitor, the LCD screen in the booth for ADRs. Like sometimes I do ADR, and I didn't have a screen. So today I managed to drill the holes before I told you, like, I just went into the town to get a drill. And after this, I'm gonna mount those Visa mounts, and I'm just gonna go for a walk because
that actually sounds nice. That sounds really nice.
Yeah, love your. So from Brandon, I would like to take the NS10s, his original NS10s, because mine are the grandmother and the grandfather from NS10s. I love the NS10s from Brandon, and that BAE, man, that's treasure. That's just treasure. The BAE, I think I found it also on Thomann on our end in Europe. It costs like 2,000 euros. And your SSL Big 6 that I ordered is 2,200. They said they can sell it for 2,200. So
they sound amazing.
I will choose the SSL Big 6 over the BAE. So
yeah, that'll do that. Like, really, like, that's the thing about the SSL is when I got it, it pretty much replaced all the rest of the stuff that I use. I don't really need much else. Like, and the more and more I use it, the better I'm getting at it. Like, I'm using less and less plugins. I'm just realizing, like, it's the foundation of my sound. And I think you're gonna end up loving it.
Love Moog. I'm a big fan of Moog.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to hear that they were bought, but at least I bought them before they were bought.
Did you know Adams was bought as well? Y'all hear about that?
No.
Yeah. Focusrite bought. Focusrite bought like 10 companies.
Yeah, Focusrite is really big now, and Fender also bought Presonus.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay, we should do a session about who bought who and what became what. I hope
what company's trying to monopolize everything.
The tape machines that I have, they are all Akai's, and they are a whole lot of money nowadays. If you want to take the bigger ones, like they cost like 4,000 euros, 5,000 euros a tape machine. And Akai was a big brand, and now after they were bought in music, you don't see any expensive stuff from Akai, and they're mostly plastic.
That's kind of what happened. Adam?
And I hope that doesn't happen to Moog. Yeah. So
I think it's inevitable because they're trying to break into the full market, And so, when those type of things, it happened to Adams, like Adams commercialized for sure. Like, I think the V series is what it is, right? Minus the big ones, because
the V and the H series, the new, like mine are the A77X, but I wouldn't change them for the new ones because I heard them in the store. I'm quite happy with those. Mainly, I'm like using them when I'm listening music and producing because they have like a really wide stereo image. So it kind of feels cool.
I agree.
That's the only reason I keep them.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it many times over now. It's like the X series is like the way to go, and like the T and the V's or whatever they are, the newer series that they're doing are just
They're
not as
crazy.
good of builds as the older ones.
Yeah, that's a problem
Mhm.
because it's business at the end of the day for them. But when you buy a piece of gear for use more than just
Yeah,
that stuff, it's for me, I didn't buy the Prophet 6 and the Oberheimer and the Mooks because I don't think the software synths are not enough, or I think less of the software synths, but it's like owning a piece of history. It's like it started with Moog. It started the first polyphonic was the Prophet one. The Prophet
Yep.
5 was the first polyphonic, right? The Moog was the first one with the mono synth, right? So it's not just having a synth; it's you have the synths. It's like also you, Brandon. You show the grandmother. It's not like it's not enough that I have the mini Moog or the Moog Sub 37. I want to have that piece of history as well. It's like a freaky collection. It's
Sure.
more than just the music. And
You need-
that's the same what you're doing now, Rob. You put that guitar in your frame. It's not because I don't think you're using it in every production, but if you want to use it, it's there, and it's a piece of it's sentimental. It has a sentimental value for you. It's not that you cannot produce without that guitar.
I agree.
The
Completely
same
agree.
applies for me for my synths.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. But all right, gentlemen, I think we'll wrap this up. Chat, I just want to speak to y'all real quick. Thank you so much for just hanging with us, all the comments, all the questions. I encourage you to please give my friend Christian here and Tom a follow, and of course Brandon, because we're going to be doing this more often, of course. But please just give them a follow. I know Christian goes live, Tom goes live. I love joining their lives. Brandon does. Like we all like keep up with this and constantly talk all things audio. So if you are an audio nerd like us, you found your home. But either way, I appreciate all my guests. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Guys,
Chat. All
thanks
right,
a
till
lot.
next time. Peace, everyone.
See you next time. Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.